welcome to the 4th Annual Hayes High Athletics Hall of Fame Banquet. My name's Dustin Armbruster. I've served as voice of the Hayes High Indians with Eagle Radio for what is going to be my upcoming 19th year following along with the Indian Athletic Program. Thank you. Tonight we honor 2 legendary coaches, 2 basketball teammates going in as individuals, but also with the rest of their team. A 3-sport standout, a football, baseball star, and a standout in the golf world. Each with a common thread, they have all represented Hayes High. The purpose of the Hayes High Athletics Hall of Fame is not only to honor the inductees for what they accomplished during their time at Hayes High School, but also to put out in front of current and future Hayes High students a standard that should be strived for in their daily strive to become an athlete. A big thanks to Kirk Maska for starting all of this. Those of us that are on the committee, I believe, thought he was fairly crazy, which he is, but it turned out that this was a phenomenal idea. Tonight, we also honor the scholarship recipients of the Hayes High Athletics Hall of Fame Scholarship Program. Each of the 2025 winners were honored at the Hayes High Athletic Academic and Athletics Awards Night held at the end of the school year. Here tonight with us, J.C. Oakley and Marshall Sook. Please stand to be recognized, our 2025 scholarship recipients. One of the things that you'll notice on our sponsorship screen over here to my right, your left, is that there's going to be a way for you to be able to donate to our scholarship program if you so feel entitled to do so. One of those things that we're able to do with this is through the Heartland Community Foundation. They give us a matching percentage every year. So each of the years we put some of the money in there and it's turned into an endowment. So we're able to do this scholarship program, and a big thanks to the Heartland Community Foundation for this as well. Before we get to tonight's meal, we invite Reverend Dr. Susan Marithi for our invocation.
Good evening. My name is Susan Marithi. I am the pastor at the Methodist Church. I invite us to be in an attitude of prayer and gratitude as we celebrate tonight. Let us pray. O Lord, our God, we gather here tonight with grateful hearts, celebrating the dedication, discipline, and achievements of all the 2025 inductees to the Hayes High Hall of Fame. We thank you that they have left a lasting mark on our school's athletic legacy. Some of us remember when they walked our halls and wore our colors and how they gave their all in diligence. We honor not just their athletic achievements, but their character and commitment. Thank you for the opportunity to celebrate their legacy and the memories that have shaped our community. Thank you for the strength and perseverance that they displayed among us over the years. May this event not only honor their accomplishments, but also inspire future generations. Bless this evening, bless our meal, bless us as we fellowship in this gathering. In your name we pray. Amen.
A couple of more things as we get ready for tonight. The way this will work is that we will bring up the person chosen to introduce the inductee. Following their remarks, we will present the inductee with their award, and then the inductee will give their speech. Following the conclusion of tonight's program, everybody is more than welcome to use the backdrop for pictures once again with families, friends, teammates. And then at that point, you can continue to tell the stories of how the guy you guarded was so much bigger and faster than he was when the first time that you guarded him. It's kind of like those fish stories. They start here, they end here, and I've heard some of them already. I'm pretty sure none of you guarded Michael Jordan, but apparently a couple of you did. For the person doing the induction, we kind of keep you on a 5-minute timetable. So we went over some options, and at first we thought we would get one of those big hooks to pull the person doing the introduction off. But then we realized most of your hips can't handle that. So we decided to go a different way, and we decided we use an air horn. But most of you can't hear the air horn, so I will come up from the side, get the award, and we'll end up going ahead and that's your 5-minute mark when I start coming up to wrap it up. Let's get the award and move on. All right? Here we go. It's truly an honor to find your name among the list of honorees for the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame, but it takes more on a unique level when you are inducted with a teammate and classmate and your team. If Ed Shoemaker and Dana Albright were on separate teams or separated by a few years, they would still be here, and you wonder what their stats might be if they weren't on the same team at the same time. I can only imagine looking at the stats, imagining the opponent's coaches laying in bed at night, looking at the ceiling, thinking, if I had to stop one of them, it'd be tough. How in the world do we stop them both? Well, not many did. Ed Shoemaker's name is in the Hayes High basketball record book, top 15 many times for both career and single season numbers. Introducing Ed Shoemaker to the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame is Jeff Schwartz.
Goodness, all these people looking up here thinking they're going to hear something intelligent. Wow, we're not going to do that. Regarding all of Ed's accomplishments of what everybody knows, he's all world, all galactic, all hemispheric, whatever. The things that need to be said about Ed, additionally about his accomplishments, were that in July of this year, Ed retired with over 46 years with the Kansas Corporation Commission. 46 years. That's devotion. He's only one of 2 people still living in the Hayes office that started that group. 46 years. He's also been married to Mary for 47 years. 47 years. Congratulations to Mary. Most importantly, Ed's family, his most significant achievement is his family, Tracy, Scott, and Mary. We'd like to thank them all for putting up with Ed all these years and getting him here tonight. I do have one other question about Ed's accomplishments. I've noted that amongst all the numbers and all this and that, there's a big hole on the scholastic record of Ed. Something missing about the valedictorian thing. I'm not sure what happened, if this is an omission, some kind of oversight, a different night. Maybe it's a different night, who knows. Give or take a couple of hours, it's been about 54 years since this group was together. 54 years. Richard Nixon was in office. It's been so long. You believe that? It's good to know, though, as you look out at this group, that nobody's aged. Not a bit. If we waited another 54 years, it's a good thing we got this going, because if we waited another 54 years, this group's going to thin out a little bit in the next few years. The only person that'd be left here in 54 years would be Mike Lease, still sitting here. Since we are old and we have trouble deciding which way is up, it might be easier tonight if we forego discussions of basketball tales 54 years ago and just talked about our health, right? I mean, isn't that what old people do? We immediately, if you get 2 old people together, the first thing they do is start talking about their health. Or we can get Bob Lowen up here and have him explain how we can all learn to play pickleball. Speaking of advanced age, Ed had a birthday this week, Tuesday. Happy birthday, Ed. A belated happy birthday. The Civil War was over when Ed was born, but Eisenhower was still in office. So, I mean, we're going further and further back. Eisenhower was in office, and on Ed's birthday on Tuesday, he's over 26,000 days old. 26,000 days old. He looks great. He's held up good. He doesn't look a day over 10,000 years old. Reason I mention that is of all Ed's accomplishments and statistics, I was always amazed at Ed's age. I mean, he was only 16 years old when he played on that 69-70 team. He was only 17 years old on the 70-71 team. When he broke Gene Ryder's record, Ed was only 17. Who knows how old Ryder was? Ryder could have been 25, 30. Who knows how old Gene Ryder was? But you can bet Ryder was not 17. That's probably what's the most impressive about Ed's talents on the floor was his age. By today's standards, Ed should have been, instead of 16 and 17, Ed should have been 18 and 19. He was just a kid when he did all those remarkable things. Just a kid. Big difference between a kid that's 17 and 19. It was always a privilege to play with Ed. It was never about him in his mind. He was a tremendous athlete, a tremendous teammate. And on behalf of Ed's family and his friends that are here tonight, it is an honor to present Ed Shoemaker.
I want to thank Jeff for the kind words, but he did leave out that we had the same birthday, both the same date, so a lot to share on that. I was also warned not to say anything stupid tonight. Now that I got that out of the way, we can continue. Brought with me something that everybody holds dear to their heart. And this was a holy grail of Hayes High basketball. And I said, Coach Sloan always had in his mind that there was reward, but there was also punishment. But this was one of the rewards that we got. And I will let Coach Sloan explain a little more about that. They had specific guidelines, and this is the only one I got in 2 years. So there are others that got more, but you had to do something, accomplish a lot to get one. As far as the Coach Sloan Bible, I left that because we were always told to keep that under lock and key. And I never returned mine to Coach Sloan. But basically, it was his philosophy on the game, how we were to conduct ourselves on and off the court, and then also to show you how old we really are. There are quotes in that booklet from Bill Russell, Boston Celtics, and it was unbelievable, but they talked about the mental game so much. And I know anytime I took the court, I never thought we were going to lose a game. And that's just the way I was. I did not like losing. I could accept the loss. But when you see that booklet and you talk about the mental game, if you go in and think you're going to get beat or you're up against odds, chances are you're not going to win. I even had a teammate say, you shouldn't be saying you're going to win. And I said, until otherwise, we're going to win a game. We talked about a lot of things. Rebounding machine was probably the most. Basically, you learned early, because that rebounding machine had hydraulics on it. So you couldn't just grab that ball. You had to snap it through, and it had resistance. We all learned at a very quick age. When you came down with it, first thing were the elbows out. That was my deadly weapon. You can ask Randy Johnson about that. Nobody wanted to get caught by an elbow, but I never did it on purpose. It was just a natural move, because everything you did was protect the ball. And you can talk to any coaches, they all have their philosophy on that. But if you see pictures, Coach Sloan, every year he would get the team together, get them in a room at the classroom at the high school, and go over what he needed them to work on. And I'll never forget, I was a sophomore, And he came up and he goes, Shoemaker, and he looks down, he's sort of shaking his head. Shoemaker, he said, you got to gain some weight or you may not you may not be able to play varsity next year. And everybody's laughing, you know, it was funny. But I didn't gain much weight. He said, you better eat a lot of starchy foods. Well, I did. I had a lot of potato chips and a lot of bologna sandwiches. I lived on bologna. We had a different diet than most people did. But we worked hard on all that, and things seemed to work out for both of us. You know, a lot of players will get awards, but when it comes right down to it, it's team. And like they always say, there is no I in team, and that reads true no matter where you go. Everybody sacrifices, everybody had to put in practice, and whatever happened, happened. But the guys all worked their hearts out. We got a good group here tonight. The 69-70 bunch came in. Bill Hall came in, and I know when they said don't say something stupid, Bill will probably be smiling and laughing because he knows Shoemaker can't say anything smart at times. Things just came out of my mouth and those guys would laugh. As far as what we did for Hayes High basketball, our 2 years, we brought the fans back to the game, and it was great. Our student body was great, the pep section, and Mr. Folsom with the pep band. I also come on the Pfeiffer side, a very musical family, so I appreciated music. But we filled the gyms, and it didn't matter where we go. We had a lot of people travel to watch us because we didn't lose much those 2 years. And so it was probably the best 2 years of basketball I ever had, because after that it gets ugly because you're now playing at a different level, and there are certain things, you know, it just turns into a whole different game. And high school is probably the last fun time you can actually enjoy because it comes a job after that. But and honestly, one of the funny things that did happen to me is some friends invited me out to St. Joe's, TMP now, to shoot in the gym. And so I said, you think it'll be all right? And he said, oh yeah, nobody will care if you come in. And so went out there, and here came Father Earl Befford. We all called him Father Earl. We were all on first name basis. We loved the guy. But he came over and he said, he's not allowed in here. Ed's not allowed in here. And they go, why? He said, he doesn't go to school here. And that showed me how competitive they were. They did not want me in that gym, and I was kicked out. And we laughed about it, but those 2 years, we ended up getting the better end of the deal. We ended up beating them all 4 games, so I figured that was his punishment. And we always, you know, there were things that happened. You know, I'll never forget when we played at the Felton School and the junior high, and Larry Schmidt was playing post for him. And everybody, they had a nickname, and it was Larry Lacker Schmidt. And the reason they called him that is because he was always on the floor. And that one thing you did not do, and I told Coach Sloan, I said, man, if that ball's loose and on the floor, we got to stay out of the way. Larry didn't go around you, he went through you. and it didn't matter what body part. But I remember Jeff had to guard him at post, and I just told Jeff, I said, Jeff, do not let him go left, because Larry was left-handed. And his first move, it was lightning. And if you didn't shut him off before he got started, he was going to get a layup on you. But you know, it's just basically the St. Joe's and Hayes High rivalry. You had so many people come, and we also had the surrounding communities actually come watch us play, and it was great. You had Bob Davis just starting his tenure in Hayes, and people forget Jay Schleier was at the Hayes Daily News, and a lot of people didn't really give too much respect to Western Kansas. It was all Eastern Kansas. And they made it a point to make sure a lot of these communities were covered. And that meant a lot. And it was a good time. And like I said, thank the guys that came in, 69-70 team. We owe a lot of what we accomplished to Coach Sloan. And everybody knew it. And the only other thing, we had two games in particular, my senior year. Our first loss of the season came to Pratt, on Pratt's court, and we got beat by 2 points, and it was hard to take. Well, our next game, it was at Hayes, and we had to play Garden City. Garden City, I think if you check, I'll have to fact check this one, Coach, but I think we were down 20 points at halftime. And it didn't matter what we did, we couldn't do anything right. And Coach Sloan came in, and we were sitting there, and you could have heard a pin drop. And that's when he decided to try to break the blackboard. Now, these blackboards back then were like 15 foot long and stood about 5 foot tall. And he was upset. And I could hear, like I said, all I was doing is, we're all gonna die. We are all gonna die. And what that meant, and even Coach said, we better straighten up or we're gonna be basically practicing after that game. And everybody knew what the punishment was for bad behavior, running lines. And so we ended up winning that game, I think, by 7 points. And in high school ball with a 2-point line, we didn't have the 3-point. The guys came out and we played some outlandish basic defense. Went after, we had to knew the sides. The wings would always try to deny the side throw. And man, we went after them like we knew our lives were on the line, because we knew we weren't going home early if we lost that game. But a lot of the guys, we all put it on the line for Coach Sloan. And it was very regimented. We had our drills that we went through. But you look at kids today, if they came out of a decent program, because you can see on fundamental skills. And it's the first thing you'll pick up. We knew how to block out. We knew how to rebound. We knew how to play defense. We played man-to-man defense, and it was a difference between us being an average team and 2 great teams. So to you, Coach, thank you for tolerating us, and also to all those that are being inducted tonight, congratulations to you. It's all well-deserved. And at this point, I'll turn it over to somebody else, and I thank you for your time.
Our next inductee is Dana Albright. Top 15 in points in a career, top 10 for a single season, 3rd for career rebounds, top 10 rebounds in a season still after all these years. Think of all the players that have put up a shot, all the players that have snared a rebound, and Dana Albright's name is still there. Introducing Dana Albright to the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame is Mike Scott.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure today to introduce Dana Albright as an inductee in this year's Athletics Hall of Fame. But first of all, I have a complaint. Nobody said we could bring props, so I was hoping that we could. But Dana said he didn't earn one of those jocks anyway. So, but it's Dana had a great career at Hayes High, and as was well documented. So before he gets up here and talks, what I'd like to do is just talk some about the individual honors that Dana did kind of off the court. He really, we had, I'll just say we were neighbors on 2 different occasions. We were on Hickory Street, and Dana moved in, and Brother Pat can attest to this too, but then we moved to 29th Street, and after a couple years Dana moved across the street too, and little did he know that we had already started a gang there on 29th Street. We called it aptly the 29th Street Gang. And so we did all sorts of fun things, and such founding members as Kurt Watson's here and Billy Hall are here, and they can attest to how much fun we had as a 29th Street Gang. But a couple things stand out on all the good things we did. We always played. We like to play cards, and poker, would be a good one. We'd also do croquet. Dana was relentless, when he got the black ball, and started sending people all over the neighborhood because he enjoyed being a little bit ruthless out there. But other things we did, we just played all sorts of sports, whether it's garage ball, basketball, or pass receiver interceptor, or we called it fun ball. It was just you throw the ball up, let it bounce, and whoever got the ball, everybody else tackled him. So anyway, a lot of good times played on the streets of East 29th. So that was a lot of good times. Dana said he's going to focus his comments tonight on what he enjoyed as far as growing up and going through Hayes High, and also about the times just he enjoyed growing up in Hayes, America. So he's going to concentrate on that. But just as a way to introduction for Dana, I do want to mention just a few personal traits for him, because he's been gone for a while from the area, and I think it's important to know that for people to know that Dana lives in New Mexico now, Rio Rancho, and he has a daughter. And he also is the proud grandfather of a 5-year-old grandson, Milo. He has two sisters, and Kathy and Chris. And Kathy is here tonight, and it's really appropriate that she come and sit with us, because she's the one that nominated Dana for the Hall of Fame, and I'm glad to see that it came through. So thank you, Kathy, for doing that. But after graduating from Hayes High, then Dana went to Garden City Community College and had a really good career there. And then for his final 2 years in college, he went to West Texas State and really had a good career there. One of his teammates was a guy named Maurice Cheeks, right, Dana? Maurice Cheeks, and went on to have a really good NBA career. So it was a good thing for Dana to be a part of that team. And then lastly, he was a teacher on the community college level too. He taught over 30 years on the community college level, and was a psychology teacher there. So, he did it here in Kansas and also in the state of New Mexico. So without further ado, let's welcome Dana Albright.
Thanks for the great introduction, Mike. I appreciate that. Eddie, I really enjoyed your speech too. You stole a lot of my material, but that's okay. And I don't have a jock. I guess I didn't play defense that great when I was Anyway, I don't have a jock. Sorry, didn't bring one. Anyway, as most of you know, Mike Scott is an identical twin, so I'll start off with a little joke about twins. Since I did teach psychology and I had a chapter on personality, so I'd always have this little joke about personality. So there's two twins. One was a pessimist, one was an optimist. And they're identical twins. How could they be so different personalities? So they had a test. The pessimist, they put him in a room full of the latest gadgets, the latest toys, the latest electronics. Oh, yeah, this will cheer the dude up, right? He goes in there, he's mad, he's angry, he's pessimistic. He comes out, what's the problem? Well, this is going to be old after a while. This is no good. I'm just going to get bored with this. Yeah, he's the pessimist. Then they brought the optimist in the room, in a room full of horse manure. They gave him a shovel. He was digging, he was having a good time, he was smiling. I said, why are you having such a good time digging horse manure? If I keep on digging, I'm going to find a pony in here somewhere. And I think I found my pony right here tonight. Because believe me, when you're a boy named Dana, grew up in Hayes, Kansas, you get a little bit of horse manure on. Anyway, I don't know why I had that name, Dana. I was born with it. I got a lot of teasing. It was just kids teasing each other, but my parents finally told me the Kansas State football quarterback's name was Dana, so that's how I got it, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to start. I was born on October 4th, 1953, so I was young too. I was born at Hadley Memorial Hospital, Dr. Hutchison, presiding physician. I'm just going to have a few memories. So I'm here because of basketball, so just a few basketball memories. I'm 4 years of age. I'm living across from Washington Elementary School. I went to Washington Elementary School for kindergarten. I started when I was 4 years old. So I remember my dad taking me to Ahern Fieldhouse with a bunch of buddies of his, and Jay Rabick was in the car. We went up to Ahern Fieldhouse, Kansas State University. Boy, that was a great experience. So I really loved basketball since the age of 4. So then we moved to the Lincoln School District, and I went to Lincoln Elementary School for a few years. Then we moved to Hickory Street, where Pat and Mike Scott were my neighbors. And there was a nice asphalt, concrete backyard. We had a nice goal, so I did a lot of my practicing in the backyard in Hickory Street. So moving on, and I went to junior high and 7th and 8th grade junior high school. I'll never forget 8th grade, Mr. Gilchrist. Never forget him. Great guy, great pickup trucks. And so I remember one day, this is 8th grade thinking, you know. One day I had to stay after school. I said, well, I'm going to stay after school. I'm going to be late for practice. Why go to practice? I don't go to practice. Who practiced? Anyway, I went home and I just shot around backyard. Next day I show up, benched. I never got to start again in the 8th grade. Anyway, I learned a good lesson. Thank you, Mr. Gilchrist. I never missed a practice after that. So then I went to freshman year. Of course, Mr. Maska, he didn't look at that. He didn't look at my past history. He said, come on, you got a fresh start. So I started my freshman year. That was good. I enjoyed it. Sophomore year, I moved to 29th Street again, and I became a member of the 29th Street gang. That was great. And I played, started the sophomore team, then I went to the junior varsity. I played a little bit of varsity ball when I was a sophomore. Junior year, well, anyway, we moved to, junior year. Wow, I don't know why I went out for football my junior year, but somebody dared me. They said, you can't play football, you're a basketball player. So I went out for football that year when I was a junior in high school. I know Eugene Opoulos was better than me, so he was the starter, not me. Kurt Watson, he threw me a good pass. I caught it, diving catch, called back because of penalty. So I never had any records in football, I'm sure. But my greatest memory in my junior year is about the only shot I remember making on my whole career. It was Dodge City, Kansas. I'm pretty sure it was the lights because I usually had good eye-hand coordination. I was going back to the pass. I was looking up. I was about to catch it, but there was the lights, like I said. Hit me on top of the head. Went right in the basket. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one that made a basket. Top of their head. So anyway, Eddie, whatever you said about our senior year, I'll second that. You said all I was going to say. So we had a great year. I really appreciate all you being here. I appreciate the nomination. It's an honor to be a Hayes High Hall of Famer. And thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much.
Each year we tend to have a team that is nominated, and there's something about having a team nominated because as you'll learn from Coach when he comes up here, but everybody knows that not everything on a team is created equal. There are players who get their names in the box score a little bit more than others. There's players who play a lesser role but nonetheless important than everybody else. The 1970-1971 team broke a league championship drought that had lasted from 1955-56 through the 69-70 season, at a time when Hayes High was part of the WCKL. They went on to have one of the best seasons in school history. Introducing the 1970-71 Hayes High basketball team to the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame, Coach Don Sloan.
Dad, I got this. You're next. All right, here we go. It's great to be home. My name's Sherry Sloan. I'm Coach Don Sloan's daughter, and I'm going to introduce he and his team tonight. So just thank you to everyone, to the board with the Hall of Fame, Kurt Maska. Absolutely wonderful event. Excited to be here. So this is called Waking Up to Greatness. And good evening, everyone. Some of us have dreams as children, and some of us are lucky enough to live them, thanks to the incredible people who shape our lives. For me, that person was my dad, Coach Don Sloan. This would be easier if I try not to fold up here. And tonight, I have the honor of introducing him and the legendary 1970-71 Hayes High School boys basketball team. as they are inducted into the Hayes High School Athletic Hall of Fame. My dad coached at Hayes High from 1967 to 1973, and those were more than just seasons, they were a movement. He inherited a team with a modest 11-10 record, and through grit, mentorship, and building a culture of tenacity, he transformed it into a powerhouse. By the 1969-70 season, the team went 17-3 and tied for the WCKL championship. Every single player earned a college scholarship in a sport. The next year, 1970-71, they went 18-1, one loss until they lost to McPherson in the regional tournament, and finished 18-2. The first WCKA title for Hayes High since 1955. But what made my dad special wasn't just the wins, it was how he won. And if you ever spent a morning at our house, you knew if you weren't up by 5 a.m., you were wasting daylight. That was his motto. Our household during these seasons revolved around the team. My parents worked in sync along with the Channels, Riders, and Lees families to support the team in every way possible. My mom, Margaret, was the behind-the-scenes MVP. She embroidered those jock straps that you saw hung up with a colorful Big Chief or a tomahawk on the front. And yes, really, we saw them. They helped plan steak dinners for any game that the team held the opposition below 40 points. And then the team did this so often that we ran out of beef in our freezer. The boys' parents started bringing the steaks to keep the tradition alive. I was just 3 through 7 years old during these magical seasons, but I remember it all vividly. Saturday practices, salt tablets I overindulged in, and the joy of being something bigger than ourselves. It was in that environment that I learned the value of hard work, goal setting, and community. That failure is just a step towards success. That sports are full of the best people and the best lessons in life. One of my favorite memories of my dad was a summer morning when I was about 12 and my brother Steve was 14. We hesitated about going skiing at 5 a.m. and my dad stood between our bedroom doors and said, "That's fine. You can stay in bed, but I expect you both to be at the rec department by 8 a.m. and have a job by noon. Otherwise, your job is to ski with me in the morning, come home, eat breakfast, go back and ski with your mother, come home, eat dinner, and then go to summer basketball from 7 to 9. It's your choice." And then he walked away. You never saw two kids put on bathing suits faster. My dad was a process-driven leader. Each practice was scripted and tucked into his pants, positive at every turn, and deeply committed to helping young people become not just better athletes, but better men. He mentored with humor, kindness, and relentless effort. He built a culture of showing up, working hard, and doing things the right way. Through his position as superintendent of the recreational department, he was awarded grants to build the Wilson swimming pool and fence all of the baseball fields. He also spearheaded a community Christmas drive for children in need. To this day, my dad still walks, works out, and plays golf. His commitment to movement, mentorship, and mindset has not wavered. He's helped his children become world-class athletes. But tonight, it's not about us, it's about the team, the boys, and the legacy. Coaching at Hayes High was the highlight of my dad's life. He adored his players and believed in them deeply. And tonight we honor not just the record, but the relationships, not just the stats, but the spirit. So with immense pride and gratitude, I present to you my father, Coach Don Sloan, and the 1970-71 Hayes High School boys basketball team, forever champions and now Hall of Famers. Thank you.
I don't hardly know what to say after all that. I'll tell you what, I've been all over the world. And I've been here 2 days, and it's the best 2 days of my life. Because I got to spend time with players that I coached, and they gave me over 100%. After I came up with the little award that we gave at the awards And they already took that away from me. They showed you what the word was. And the thing that made this so good is we would show it at when we had on Friday or whenever we had our cheerleaders there, we would show them who won the award for the week. And then those girls all wanted to have one to put on their bulletin board. So we went from 70% effective potential with their defense to 100%. Now, you know, just little things like that sometimes help. So we had a lot of little things like that we used and helped. And I was blessed to have the players I had, and they were unbelievable. I never asked them to do anything that they didn't give me 100% doing. And, you know, you go through life and you learn that whatever you're doing, you want to do it 100%. And these guys do it 100%. I guess start off, you know, that last year we won the Concordia tournament, and we had a great season. Lost one game through the season, and of course it wasn't because we weren't hustling. It wasn't because we weren't playing tough defense. We were giving it everything we got, but it was one of those games, you know, we'd shoot the ball and go in there and bounce around and come out. And we got beat 34-33. Well, they still got a steak dinner because they held the team to under 40 points. So anyway, I had a great group of young men. They were unbelievable. I had the best assistant coaches you could possibly have, and I credit them with our success. If Hayes High would have given me $100,000 and said, go out and hire whatever assistant coaches you want, I couldn't have hired the assistant coaches that I ended up with. First year was Eldon Becker. I can still see him down on one knee, shaking his head. I mean, he wanted her done now. And after that first year, we had those kids the second year. And the first 5 games, that's when we started the weight training program. And Dwayne Kramer came up to me and said, Coach, I'm not going to be able to do that weight training program because it's going to affect my shot. I said, nah, Dwayne, it's not going to affect your shot, because if you don't do the weight training program, you're not going to be on the team. So I didn't have that question anymore. And it was one of the greatest things we did. We played 5 games. We got beat 1 game. The other 4 games, at halftime, we were behind. We'd get to the third quarter, and they'd come over and say, well, we got them, Coach. And I said, what do you mean we got them? They're down. They're all bent over. Look at them. We were in the best shape you could be in, physically, mentally, and those kids give me everything they had. We ended up at the end of the season, we played Larned at home, and Larned was number 1 in the state. We played them at Hayes High, and we get down to close to the end of the game. Dwayne Kramer passes the ball to Staven. Staven passes back. Dwayne Kramer passes it back to Staven, and he just knocks the bottom out of it. We beat Larned, ranked 1 in the state. And then we end up at the end of the season. Now this is way back when the second year I was there. We ended up tied with Garden City, Larned, and Hayes for the league championship. And we had to go play Larned, and they had a coach's son that was fabulous. And we got beat at Larned, so we ended up 3rd in the West Central Kansas League. You know, the players I had on this team, I just want to go through each one of them and tell you what they did and how valuable they were. Ed Shoemaker, and I've talked to him a lot, you know, he's probably the best defensive forward in the state of Kansas. And the reason he was 6'7", And when he went up, he didn't slap the ball out of bounds. He went up and tipped it up and then went up and caught it. I would have given anything if we could have played Nino Samuel, because Nino Samuel got it rammed right down his throat. And we'd have beat Salina Central in the state tournament and won it. That's beside the point. Anyway, Ed Shoemaker was on the Class 4A All-State team. He was elected as a 7-man All-Star team in the West Central Kansas League. He had a 24-point average, best defensive forward in the state of Kansas, and he was. There wasn't anybody close. When he got out, he went to Kentucky Western, and Kentucky Western's a long ways from Hays, Kansas. And he stayed 1 year, came back, went to Pratt JUCO, and ended up to Fort Hays State, where he was on their Hall of Fame team. Anyway, I can't say enough about Ed Shoemaker. I mean, he was fabulous. He was fabulous. Dana Albright was on the Class 4A All-State team. He was elected to 7-man All-Star team in the West Central Kansas League. He averaged 46% shooting for the year. He shot 80% from the free throw line. And that's why the team shot 76% for the year from the free throw line. That's where we were tough. We didn't miss him. And the reason we didn't miss him, after practice, you shot a free throw. If you missed it, you ran the lines. And when you run the lines, you run to half court, back to free throw and touch it, run the other end, back to half court and touch it, back to the other end, and then in. And you got to be in time or you run it again. So that worked out pretty well. Dana Albright went to Garden City JUCO the first 2 years, and then went to North Texas State the last 2 years. He averaged 26 points per game. Now, this was just 2 of our team. Let me go on. Steve Clark was a junior guard. He received All-League West Central Kansas League honorable mention. He had several games that he scored over 20 points per game. When we got to the end of the season, he had mononucleosis. It was diagnosed as mononucleosis. He was weak. He couldn't play. And here we're getting ready to play the last 2 games of the season and go down and play the regional game. So we missed him, but that's the way it seemed to work out. You know, and I think probably Ed Shoemaker had the best point. He said, "Coach, it wasn't in the cards. It just wasn't in the cards." And I guess it wasn't. He had a lot of games that he scored more than 20 points. And with the illness he had with mononucleosis, he missed the last game at McPherson. Our center was Jeff Swartz. He could go to these colleges today and show them how to set a screen. I mean, when he set a screen, I knew it was a good screen because you'd hear, "Up!" Because when he come around, he just didn't set a screen. If he came out and he screened, if he put his hand on this way, he knew that the screen was going to go this way. So he put his hand here, he screened here, he had his hands out. Not only did he have his hands out, he was holding that defensive man. And then if they checked, he had a layup. That's simple. Even I could figure that out. Jeff Swartz was our postman, and he was a great rebounder, a great defensive man. The great thing about him, he had a great attitude, excellent team player, and like I just showed you, he was a great screener. Barry Boggs was starting at guard position. He was a great defensive player. He did a great job running their offense. He took control, and I mean he took control. He took care of the basketball. I don't ever remember. I've looked at all these films. I looked at them for 4 hours yesterday and today. I never see have a turnover. You know, he just didn't make any mistakes. Dave Steckline filled in and started guard after Steve Clark was sick, and he was with us the rest of the year. He took the place of Steve Clark. He was a great shooter, hit 9 of 10 free throws from Great Bend in the final game. It's kind of interesting. We went down to Great Bend, and we had a closed fist play. And, of course, Steve Clark hit Ed Shoemaker. And then the forward, Dana Albright on the other side, cleared out. And Steve Clark hit him, went behind, and got the ball. Ed Shoemaker rolled to the basket, threw it in, laid it in. Then we played Great Bend at home. And Kurt Watson always brought his radio, because what we did is at 4 o'clock, they came up to the junior high. They got out at 3. They got there at 3:30. 4 o'clock, we went to the Vagabond and had a pre-game meal. And the reason I did that, when I was a kid growing up, Dad had a processing plant he's running. He'd get home at 8 o'clock, and Mom had a beauty shop. She'd get home at 6, and I'd have a bologna sandwich. And sometimes that doesn't digest very well. So I came up with this brilliant idea that we're going to have a pregame meal. And thank God we did, because there was a lot of kids on our team that was having the same problem I was having when I was a kid. That was I didn't have anything to eat. And you run out of energy. So that's a little thing we did. I think everybody enjoyed it. Dave Steckline started guard in place of Steve Clark when he was out sick. Great shooter, he hit 9 of 10 free throws against Great Bend in the final Great Bend game. When we played them at home, we played them at Great Bend, we beat them 1 point. Then we were going to play them at home, and the kids came in before every game. We had mats down. And after we had the pregame meal, they would come back and lay on the mats and listen to music or rest, get ready for the game. And we were back in there. Kurt Watson, he was our thinker. He'd had the Great Bend station on. Jim Nevergall of Great Bend got on the radio and said, "Hey, Kyle, never beat us again." I didn't have, I tell you, that's the best pep talk I ever heard. We beat them 16 points, and I mean, that's the best game. We look at that on film, I couldn't even find anything to yell at them about. So, Pat Lee filled in at guard position, great ball handler, defensive player, hustled all the time. I called him Mr. Hustle. And he just was on, he just didn't do anything wrong. Randy Fellows, great ball handler, shooter, played excellent defense, stayed in double figures most of the games. Joe Robinson is deceased. He filled in for Jeff Swartz at center position when Jeff was sick. He was a great defensive player and could really shoot the ball. Barry Deese, who was also deceased, was the forward position. He'd fill in for Dana Albright or Ed Shoemaker. Harry Watts filled in for Joel Robinson at center and was on our team. You know, I've been all over the world, and I spent 2 days here with these basketball players and friends. Hayes High School, I missed coaching every day of my life. And I wake up a lot of time at 12 o'clock at night, and I'm still playing that McPherson game. You know, we get down on that. We're 22 points at halftime, playing excellent. I mean, we weren't making any mistakes. We're ready to win the state tournament. What happens? Well, I'll tell you what happened. They had an official that, I don't know, I think he stole the game from us. So, what happened the second point? They went from a basketball game to a football game. I mean, we were knocked down 9 times. We had a 22-point lead. The end of the third quarter, we had an 8-point lead. I knew we had a problem, so I met with officials, and they didn't like what I had to say, and I didn't like the way they were calling the game, and so that probably didn't help us any. Anyway, Ed Shoemaker got the ball on the wing. We're 1 point behind. He drives in. I'm watching the clock. He gets the ball when there's 20 seconds. He lays it in the basket and there's 10 seconds. What do the officials do? They sprint to the score table. I thought, what in the world's going on? They get over there, and this is what they said. They said, what happened was that the scores table, they decided to use a stopwatch because the clock wasn't working right. So the stopwatch showed that the basket didn't count, and the officials waved it off, and then they sprinted to the dressing room with me after them. So that's how we ended the season. I'm not blaming anyone, you know, it's just one of the things that happened. But God bless you. I love everybody in Hays, Kansas. I mean, we have a game, we hold that gym, when junior high gym would hold 2,500 people, and we had her full every game. That's half the battle. Thank you.
I know current head coach at Hays High School, Sean Dreiling, is here, so I embroidered jock straps and steak dinners. So I'm really looking forward to this next season. I'm taking notes, that's good. Not many student athletes have to push to have their own sport. Donna Lowen was part of a group that pushed for the girls to have their own season separate from the boys. That may have been enough to end up in the Hall of Fame alone. Donna went on in golf to win 78% of her high school tournaments she competed in as a Hays High Indian, and finished in the top 5 4 times at the state championships. Here to introduce Donna Lowen into the Hays High Athletic Hall of Fame is Doug Lowen. Bob Lowen, excuse me.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to introduce my sister, Donna Lowen. She was the 6th and youngest child of Bev and Bob Lowen Sr. I'm sure many of you know that she was born into a very athletic and competitive family, and she pretty much kept the tradition going for sure. She played many sports growing up. In high school, she played volleyball, and she played basketball pretty good too. She was selected the most outstanding female athlete at Hays High in 1986. But her best sport was golf, which she really excelled in, as you heard a few stats just mentioned. She won 25 of 32 high school tournaments. She had 2 regular seasons that she went undefeated. She finished first, second, first, and first at her 4 high school regional tournaments. She finished 5th, 3rd, and 2nd at the state high school championship. She also won the Kansas Junior titles in 1983 and 1984. She won the Kansas State Amateur titles in 1985 and 1990. She also qualified for the Optimist Junior World Golf Tournament in 1984 and 1985. She'd go on to Kansas University on a full ride golf scholarship, and she was one of the most important, best players on the team. And that KU team, the only title it won in the Big 8 play was when she was there in 1990. It was the only women's golf title they won. So now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Donna Lowen as a new Hall of Fame member of the class of 2025. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I haven't spoken in front of people in a very long time, so don't expect Bob Lowen Sr. to be up here right now. Just want to thank the Hall of Fame committee for inducting me. It's a great class to be part of this year, and there's so many deserving athletes, so I'm honored that I was chosen. Just want to talk about the team. You know, we traveled across the state, played several tournaments. We sang songs in the car, in the van with Coach Blazer. We would change the lyrics to match something for golf-related theme on the songs. But a lot of people don't know that my first love wasn't golf, it was actually basketball. And I think it was when I was 9 years old and I won the pass, dribble, and shoot contest against Robbie Dingus and Norman Shippers. But for some reason, I don't think my dad thought I was going to be able to go on and have a career in basketball in college, so he wanted me to focus on golf, which was fine. I love golf, always have. He called me his little headhunter when I was out there because for some reason he thought I liked to go out and beat people in sports. Trying to think what else here I want to say. And they talked about my parents and Coach Blazer. Other parents were very instrumental in getting girls golf started in Hayes High in 1982. We didn't have a full season that year. We only got to go to regionals, and then whoever qualified go to state. And then Gina Liker and I qualified and got to go to state. And then the team just kept growing year after year, so we had a full season. I'm moving the podium here. I'm grateful that I was born in Hayes. Somebody else said they were born at Hadley. I was October 3rd, Hadley Hospital. I'm trying to think what else. This is nerve-wracking for me. Yeah, the only thing is, wish our parents could have been here to see this. And then, my brother, I'm honored because two of my brothers are in the Hall of Fame for cross country, and I think Coach Cross and Coach Maskell were probably a little shocked that I didn't want to be a runner like the rest of my siblings. Just want to thank everybody. But in closing, just had a story about Mike Carl and why I'm still mad at him for 40 years. And everybody's looking, Mike Carl, how can you be mad at Mike Carl? We're at it was my senior year, we're at State in Overland Park, and I'm in the hotel room, and I think Amy Guffey had also qualified that year. And unbeknownst to me, he had tickets to the Game 7 of the World Series. And he took my dad to the game, and I'm stuck in the hotel watching it on TV. But they did make it to the tournament the next day, and watched every shot that I had. But anyway, I just, I don't really have a grudge against him, but they reminded me every time I come back home and I play golf with them, about that trip that we took, and they went to the World Series Game 7 with the Royals beating the Cardinals. So anyway, just want to thank everybody, keeping it short and sweet. Thanks.
Playing in not one but two All-Star games, one in baseball and another in football, Joe Hoffman played at an elite level in two sports. All-State on both sides of the ball as a running back and defensive back, a four-year starter in center field, and records that still reside in the top 10 and top 5 from the Diamond. Joe Hoffman put together a resume that has landed him in the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame. Here to introduce Joe is Mike Carl.
Donna didn't tell you the whole story. The Royals had called and said they were 2 seats short of an absolute sellout, and it had to be sold out for TV purposes, so Bob and I went. Hell of a game, Royals won it. How many people in here tonight, we're going to do something a little different. How many people here tonight are educators? Cleared all those hands. Can money buy the feeling that we're having tonight, seeing all our kids, but seeing all our kids come back and talk to each other and share the memories that we had? Educators don't make a ton of money, but what we're getting tonight and what we're feeling tonight money can't buy. So thank you, all the educators and coaches out there. Joey Hoffman had a tremendous athletic career at Hayes High School. 4-year letterman in baseball, 4 years starting in center field, played in the state baseball finals as a freshman and as a sophomore. He is tied for 9th in career hits with 80, his 2nd in career with steals at 47. He attended Butler County and then went on to K-State. I've had the opportunity to watch K-State a lot this year, and Big 12 or Big 8 baseball at that time was really good. You had to be good to play there. Football, he was a hard-running tailback. And yes, you know, in talking to his wife, Nicole, where are you? He could run at one time. He was 2nd team All-State running back and 1st team defensive back. He received all area honors from the Hutch News, the Hayes Daily News, and Salina Journal, and had the absolute greatest thrill that a high school football player can have in being nominated and vote to the East-West Shrine All-Star Game. But I want to talk a little bit for just 1 minute about another side of Joey. During the last regular season game, I think it was 1984, we were playing down in Dodge City. And I went down to supervise and watch the game, and Joey went flying after a fly ball in center field, dove, and he didn't get up. I knew something was terribly wrong, and I went running out to center field. Paramedics came. He had ruptured his spleen playing high school baseball. Now, I'm not an expert or a medical person to tell you I knew everything about the spleen, so I had to look it up. But the spleen is an organ that filters out blood to the body. His injury was so bad they had to remove the spleen. And you know, you're supposed to be in the hospital 10 days with that injury and then sit out and do nothing strenuous at all for the next 2 to 3 months. Joey was in a baseball uniform for the American Legion 3 weeks after the injury. In football, we played down at Garden City week 3. Garden City was loaded, had a couple of D1 players, went on to the NFL. Joey got injured again, and this time they had to remove his appendix. He missed 2 games. Came back for the playoffs in football. And the reason I bring that up, it reminded me of a coach I had back in New York, a coach by the name of Dick DeMott. Val knows I always try to meet him when I go back there. It was at the time of Vietnam during my senior year, and some of you young kids might not know this, but it was a terrible time for people my age. How many others? There had to be more. We had just received word the first day of football practice that 2 of our players from last year's team were killed in Vietnam. And our team was just down in the dumps. We just wanted to go home and just forget even playing football. But Coach DeMont brought us together. And he said he gave us a long talk and we made us feel a little better. But he said one thing that I'll never forget. He said, tough times make tough people. And that's Joey Hoffman. Joey, your turn. Come on up here.
Well, I don't have anything written up, but I want to thank Kirk and the board or the committee that selected me for this. I remember I was sitting in my office and Kirk called me on my phone. And he said, Joey Hoffman. I'm like, yes? He said, Kirk Maska. And we talked a little bit, and then he told me that I was going to be a member of the Hall of Fame. And You know, it was very, very heartwarming, and I was thankful. It was something that I didn't expect. I'm very humbled by it. I mean, there's a lot of players that I played with. You know, all the accolades that I've got that Mike mentioned, I couldn't have done it without my fellow teammates, especially in football. You know, Coach Cross, he was an old school football player. His thing was, he told us, one person doesn't make a team. It takes 11 to make a team. And I think about that. If I were sitting out there, one person against the other 11, I wouldn't have gone anywhere. I had great linemen, fullbacks, quarterbacks. They made me what I was. You know, I was selected as all-state defensive back, and it's kind of funny. Second team running back. And Coach Watts is here. The only coach that I have that's alive that was on the football team, he was my defensive back coach. And I practiced a lot, but I didn't play a lot. The thing was, Coach Cross said, you're going to be running the ball 30, 40 times a game. So I didn't play much defense. I did play defense at Bishop Carroll when we were playing, I think it was districts or regionals. And we beat them 21-20. I remember it was a beautiful night. Halftime came around, north wind. It was probably 70, 80 degrees, and then it dropped to 30 degrees. Mark Watts and Coach Kuhn were both in shorts and short sleeve shirts, but that was Bob Kuhn. It could have been 20 degrees, he'd have been in that. But when I was talking to Coach Watts, he said it got cold. But I played a little bit of defensive back in that game. I don't know, maybe a handful of plays. Why I was selected all-state defense back, I have no idea, but I know that the running back they gave it to was Steve Wingate from Bishop Carroll, Cape and Mount Carmel. So I'm humbled by it. And as far as baseball, I'll never forget this. A guy that played, he was a catcher. That's all I ever did. I was a catcher. And Tasha and I, we were the first freshman class in what is now the old high school. And I remember, my classmates would remember Gym B, the small gym, and we were all in there for our first baseball practice. And I was with all my classmates because we had a freshman, junior varsity, and a varsity team. And I'm standing with all my buddies, and I get a tap on the shoulder, and it's Coach Leo. And he said, "You're coming with us." So I went out, and next thing I know, we're doing infield, outfield. Again, I was a catcher. He sticks me in center field. I'd never played outfield in my life. And the other funny thing was, there were people at other positions, backups. He had nobody behind me, and I didn't know what was going on. And he had faith in me, and I don't know how he knew I was even good, because I didn't even know Coach Leo, but I played every game. As Mike said, I got injured in Dodge City. We were playing Dodge City, and the last thing I remember was Mike Moore, right fielder, turning his head. He never even took a step. Dodge City player, his name was Gil Gregg, left-handed batter, just crushed the ball over the fence. Again, he just turned, never took a step. That was the last thing I remembered. I woke up in the hospital, turned my head, saw some of my family members walking in. I tried to sit up. I had tubes all over, and the nurse pushed me down and said, "You don't want to get up." So I did come back and play baseball for the Legion. And then, as Mike said, three games in my senior year, Garden City, we finished the game, came back, ended up having my appendix out. So, I want to thank the committee. I want to thank my coaches. I wish Coach Harper and Coach Billinger were here. I really wish Coach Cross and Coach Kuhn were here. Coach Cross was a motivating factor in football. And as far as baseball, I couldn't have done it without Coach Leo, and I thank him for that. And I thank you guys. I thank my family for being here, and also my classmates for being here. So I appreciate it. If anybody's here, I think I see Randy Jordan. I think that's the only one that of the players I played with. I was a sophomore, he was a senior, and I was a starting punter. I wasn't the running back that year, but again, without any of those players, I'd be nothing. Thank you.
There's a phrase in sports, records are meant to be broken. I don't know if Tasha Arneson had heard that phrase before entering high school, but it was something that described her track career. And she took out more than one record and then proceeded to start taking out her own records. Mentioning just track would shortchange her Indian career, though, as Tasha was a three-sport athlete. It'll be Tanya Jantz coming forward to introduce Tasha into the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame.
I'd like to introduce all of you to Dr. Tasha Arneson, 2025 Hall of Fame inductee. As we famously called her Arnie, most of the time through high school. Tasha is married to Afshin, and I'm not going to try to do the last name. I just can't ever get it right. So we're going to go with Tasha and Afshin Arneson right now. But they have 5 children. Danielle and Josh, who's here, Jay-Z, Jazz, who's here, Jazzy, Jaden, who I feel is here. I feel him here in spirit. Tasha lost a child a while back, a little bit ago, and but I feel like he's here watching her, and he's very proud of his mom right now. And then Jaylene. But Tasha is a licensed psychologist, licensed marriage counselor, certified addiction counselor, who has been working as a training and consulting expert for over 30 years. Her accomplishments are probably more than what I have on this page, but I kind of took what they wrote down on the Facebook page and went from there. Tasha said, I'm not much into statistics, I just had a great time playing with everybody and being with my friends and having a good time. But she was very accomplished in track, and she was a 4-year letter winner in cross country, basketball, and track, named Hayes High Female Athlete of the Year. Tasha credits her dad, Ron, her Coach Mitchell, Coach Jim Maska, and Coach Tom Cross for having such an influence on her success in high school sports. Her freshman year, she had 4th at state in high hurdles, 5th at state in the low hurdles, 6th at state as a member of the 4x400 relay. Her sophomore year, 2nd at state in the 100-meter high hurdles, 4th at state in the 300-meter low hurdles. And one of 2 girls that qualified for the KU relays and competed in the 100-meter hurdles, the 300-meter hurdles, and the long jump. The girls' team placed 2nd or higher that year at all the regular season track meets. They were regional team champs that year, and then a 6th place team finish at the state meet. And she was also a member of the 83-84 girls basketball team that went to state. Her senior year, she was all-state by finishing in the top 6 in the 100-meter hurdles, the long jump, the 300-meter high hurdles, and the 4x400-meter relay. She was also part of the basketball team that finished 19-3 our senior year, which was the best season in school history at that time, till this last year. So it took 40 years to get us, but they got us. All of these wonderful accomplishments landed Tasha a scholarship to Bethany College for track and field. And at that point, I was pretty excited because I was playing tennis and basketball for Southwestern, and she was playing track at Bethany, and we were in the same conference. So I thought, that's great. We can when we each go play at each other's college, we can watch each other play for once instead of playing with each other. We could actually watch each other compete, but the universe had a different idea for Tasha. That first year, well, actually the last couple months of our senior year, Tasha started having really bad fevers and night sweats and pain in areas that were, groin and lymph node areas. But when she headed off to Bethany on that track scholarship, she was still having these symptoms. And within the first months of college, she had a biopsy that came back showing she had cancer. She then went for exploratory surgery at KU Med and was diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. The cancer was everywhere in her body except her bones. At this point, she had to quit college at Bethany, come back to Hayes and receive chemotherapy. And when she felt good enough, while she was taking treatments, she tried to take some classes at Fort Hayes. But as soon as she finished those treatments, she was off to the races and headed and transferred to KU, where she was a roommate of Karen Flood, another one of our really good friends. Tasha has 3 bachelor's degrees in sociology, psychology, and criminal justice. She then continued her education and earned her master's and doctorate degree in clinical psychology. Hence, the Hayes City Shootout named an award after her and called it the Tasha Arneson Most Inspirational Player Award. And by the way, she was on the basketball team with us that we did win the first 2 Hayes City Shootout tournaments our junior and senior year. They started at our junior year. So, and we'd like to mention that we beat TMP, of course, again by one point that last year with a ball that I think Kim Engel shot it, but it went up and it bounced again, and then went in, and then the coach at TMP just fell to the floor. Face planted. He's like, not again. Because I don't think we ever let them beat us the entire 4 years we played basketball. Never. Yeah, TMP never beat us. And that was always a big thing for us. So at the time, they were kind of our rivals. But I was going to tell here, after she got back there, she got the Most Inspirational Player. And so now I have listed her sports accomplishments in track, but there are a couple of funny stories that came from Karen Flood on Coach Tom Cross's attempt at saying a motivational speech to Tasha and Karen due to an unusual and particularly lousy finish at a track meet. This isn't a jockstrap one, but it's kind of similar. But he sat them down and he pointed over to 2 other ones that were in our class, Linda Fell and Laura Kiefer. And they were built like toothpicks, kind of straight up and down, everything. And Tasha and Karen were built a little different, like maybe an hourglass type, or a different build than those 2. And so Coach, he said, I want you to look over there at those 2 gals. And he goes, please notice that their bodies go straight up and down, which means they have very little wind resistance. He goes, those gals were created to run. Now you and Tasha, Karen and Tasha, were made differently. You 2 gals were made with childbearing hips. Today that probably wouldn't go over so well, but back then I think we just kind of laughed with it and rolled with it when that kind of stuff was said. But another funny story that involves a woman's build, I guess, was Tasha was our manager, or Karen was our manager on the basketball team, and she was ornery. But she, as being manager, she was in charge, of course, of the athletic tape and, making sure everything was brought and that we needed for the game. And we did have a Hayes High nice athletic bus, but Tasha and Karen were built differently than the rest of us girls as far as the upper body goes. So what those girls would do, and I think they did this just to get to Coach Mitchell because he could embarrass pretty easy, but those girls would be in the back with athletic tape, rolls of it, which I'm sure we didn't have any when we got to the game, but they would use the athletic tape over their shirt and brassiere and basically make their own Cross Your Heart bra with the athletic tape. Lots of athletic tape holding the girls up. And so Coach Mitchell would get on the bus and he'd look around, trying to make sure was everybody here and everybody present before we take off. And of course, he'd look to the back of the bus and see those two. And he would do that, you know, he's such a little guy. But he would just stand there with that hip and that, you know, he had that head cocked to the side, hands on the seats, looking back there. And he just looks at him, and he doesn't really know what to say, which probably was his best thing to do, is just not say anything. But he would just turn around and go sit back in the front of the bus and just start chuckling, because what do you do with them, you know? But these girls would do this quite often with the athletic tape, and so they were pretty funny. But in basketball, I don't know, we had the Potty Mouth Award, which I think Sherry got it a few times. I know Gwen Klaus got it the most. It was a year behind me, but Sherry's a year ahead of me. And of course, Coach, if you got the Potty Mouth Award that day at practice, then you know you had to do so many push-ups and so many runs around the gym, and he'd make us clap and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, we just had a lot of fun. And most of the stories I can't tell. We've decided they probably need to stay between all of us girls. But I did want to close with a poem that I found that it covers track and cancer diagnosis. It's kind of weird to find, but I found it and I liked it because this explains who Tasha is as a person. I mean, she's a great friend. Tasha and Karen and I were best friends all through high school, and I didn't move there till 1981 when I was a freshman. And then I left right away as soon as I was a senior to go to college. So I was here 4 years. And in those 4 years, those are probably the best 4 years of my life. I know that. Because of the friendship with Karen and Tasha, and then Laura and Bonnie were two peas in a pod, and all of us would get together, and we spent lots and lots of time together outside of basketball. And I was tennis and a couple years of track, but I wasn't a runner. I was never very fast. But Tasha was fast as lightning. And the one thing she brought to the basketball team was, I would call it more, well, not only speed. I mean, she just had a lot of speed. But that she could jump at the opponent, usually. And she would scare them, which was wonderful. Hands were just there, the face, there's some pictures. I know Laura sent me one, but it's hilarious. But she's in that person's face, and her feet, the bottom of her tennis shoes are above that person's knees, and she's just screaming at them. And she's caught in mid-flight doing that, but she did that all the time. I mean, if she wasn't she was a heck of a defense player, is what I would say. And fast, could bring that ball down the court. Her and Laura would bring the ball down the court to Bonnie and Brenda and Kim and I. And but we had so much fun. I think that's the most thing. We had a blast through high school, a blast in music, a blast in sports. Academics, obviously, she did well. And it makes me proud that we both, back in 1981, when girls weren't getting doctorates much, that we both were able to do that. So, I want to say the one thing is I'm very proud of the woman Tasha is. She's a great friend, an athlete, a daughter, a mother, a grandmother, and a sister, and one heck of a professional with her business. She's done really well, and she's helped a lot of kids that the system would have gave up on. Helped a lot of kids with all kinds of problems. But it's called Unbroken Spirit. I ran with fire, my strides so free. Hurdles fell, my spirit glee. But life had other plans, a twist of fate. Cancer's call, my track career to wait. Through treatment's path, I now must tread. My heart remains a runner's thread. In every step, a battle's won. My heart, my spirit's unbroken. The fight's just begun. Like waves that crash against the shore, I'll ride the pain and ask for more. Strength found in every arduous test, my will to rise forever best. With every dawn, a new beginning's birth, I'll face the challenge of this unknown earth. Through cancer's darkness, I'll find my way and emerge stronger, come what may. My track days may be over, but the race, obviously they're not. She's still doing it. But the race remains, a test of will, a story to reclaim. I'll run the journey of life's unknown road with courage, resilience, and a heart that's bold. So that was the poem I forgot to say. I would like to introduce Dr. Tasha Arneson as a 2025 inductee to the Hayes High Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Tasha.
Well, you never know what I call her TJ is going to say when you ask her to talk, so now I feel like I'm up here naked after hearing these stories. I really was a good kid, but you had to know our coaches, because after I was told I had a child-rearing body, I spent the next 4 years proving it with tape. And anyway, it didn't bother me at the time, so don't sweat it. You guys who are young, you're going, oh my God, did you call someone? No, that's just what we said to one another. So I didn't know what I was going to say, but I found something at my dad's house when I was there, and I thought, this is what I'm going to say. So I got to get it out. Here they are. So I started thinking about why I like sports. And these are my dad's shoes. And as a kid, I remember in elementary school seeing my dad wear these shoes. Sorry, after hearing TJ talk, all right, so my dad used to play for YMCA basketball in these shoes, and I used to see him play, and we'd go to my grandma's farm, and all of his brothers and sisters, we used to play basketball, and that's where I really started knowing about sports and liking it. I went on to sports. My dad made me a wooden hurdle at home that I used to, excuse me. Now I got this. I talk in front of thousands of people, but it's a little hard after you lose your kids to talk. We got it. I got it. Yeah. So, these are my kids. It's Jose. It's a little light in the mood. So anyway, my dad really inspired me to like sports. He had a hurdle. He came to all my games. He always leave me little notes telling me he was proud of me. So that's where it started. Then I have Coach Maska. Some of you are related to him, but I just want to tell you what he did to me. So he got me before my freshman year, and he told me that I can't go out for volleyball. I need to go out for cross country. And I told him I don't run long distances. I'm a short distance gal. Doesn't matter, if you want to be a runner, you need to go out for cross country. And he talked to me so much I believed him. He paid for it though, because I was on a team, and he'd take us out in the country, drop us off, and we would take shortcuts and go to Dana Dalton's parents' house and drink water and tea and never run. And he'd find out, and he'd take us out even further. He'd put us in the back of his pickup truck. We'd run through weeds. He caught us every time, but I was on a mission to show him that I don't run long distances. But if we were supposed to run 5 and he'd catch us, he'd put us out 9. He also took me out of typing class all the time. That's why I can't type, to talk to me about running. So when I went to college, I couldn't type. It's because he was my typing teacher, and I was always out of class because he was talking to me about form and how I needed to put my hands like this. I'm like, I don't run long distance, but I was running cross country. So I blame him for having to learn how to type in college. Then I had Coach Cross, who I always remember said, no pain, no gain. And Mask used to tell me that too. And when you're running cross country, that's the last thing you want to hear. They're sitting there eating chips while you're sweating and going uphill, and they're going, come on, Arneson, pump it, but he'd always tell me, no pain, no gain. And I'm sure Joey remembers this. He'd give us little sayings all the time. I have all of them, and I give that to the kids that I work with. So I appreciate him too, and even his comment to me, it motivated me to run. I wanted to prove that child-rearing bodies can run just as fast as pencils. And I think I did that. Then there was Coach Mitchell. He never knew what to do with us. He'd just shake his head at us all the time because we were always up to something. He'd make us run suicides, which are up and down. Somebody was talking about them. And the minute he turned the other way, we'd cheat, we'd do all sorts of stuff. So he'd always shake his head and say, Arneson, get your team together, But we had so much fun. All my teammates that are here. I don't remember stats, games, where we won or lost. I just remember having a lot of fun with all of my teammates. Right before Coach Mitchell died, I was there in his room, actually. And I told him that I have this award named after me because everyone thought I was going to croak, but I'm still here. And I told him that we need to hand that off to him now because he was on his way out and I was still standing here. So that was the last, then he died, right? I mean, that was the last thing that he heard. So I do think that my award, Most Inspirational, is really Coach Mitchell's. So you know, it was renamed unofficially in the hospital that day. We named it after him. My greatest accomplishment is my kids. I have 5 of them. And I want to warn you that I was thinking about when I had kids, what do I have to give? And my brother, who didn't do a lot of sports, he was busy doing things that were going to be useful for him the rest of his life. He knows about everything. He can fix anything. He can build anything. And I got nothing. I can't do any of that stuff because I was busy running. So I'm thinking, okay, as a parent, that's my offer, right? So thank God my oldest one wasn't in sports. But this one was. Can you give me some water? Yeah. But this one was. And he was running around, jumping all the time, playing basketball. I kicked his butt for years. Tried to make him think that he won, and then until he could beat me. He used to stand and do backflips. I'd do them right next to him. Showed him that anything he could do, I could do. And that was good. But my kids are 36 to 21. You do the math, okay? This didn't stop. Then she was an athlete. She decided she's going to run track, so I have to pull out my old spike shoes that were hanging on the wall. And I was going to teach her how to 3-step. How old was I? I don't know. So I got the spikes out with her, tried to teach her that. Then came along Jaden, who also ran track. Now he would be 22, so you do the math. That's how old I was, and I decided to get him out again. And my husband tries to tell me that you're much too old to do this shit, Tasha. Just retire him. No, no, no. Son, you're going to learn the 3-step, so I got him out again. I think that was my last time with Jaden, and then he was doing round off back handspring, backflip, and I would do them with him too. So, and then my youngest one doesn't do sports. But my warning to you is if that's what you're giving as an athlete, when you get close to 60, it's probably time to stop. They hung my spikes up so high now, my husband did. They're with my son who passed away. Our spikes and hers are hung so high. But what he doesn't know is this summer my grandchild was out with us in Branson, Missouri, and she told me she's running track. And I found a really high ladder in the garage, actually. It's really, really high. And I thought, I'm going to get those damn things out. I'm going to teach her the 3-step. So those things may be coming out again.
With a hospital bill.
With a hospital bill, yeah. But I guess what I want to say is I'm one that remembers moments and relationships. And, you know, one of the sayings I didn't hear growing up from Coach Cross is that life is what happens when you're busy planning. And that is so true. You can plan out your whole life, and shit just happens. So, you know, it's the memories, it's the moments, it's your family, it's your friends. And, you know, it's everything I've been through. I sound like a hot mess after listening to TJ. Thanks, TJ. But, you know, Coach Carl, these coaches I had were there not just for track or basketball or because I was kind of good. They were there because I was a person and they cared about me. And that's what I take away, you know, that, you know, they were there in the worst times that I had, and that's what sports are about. I think that's what it was for me to be a student. I was in a community of people who cared about me, and I pay that forward everything I do. And that came from, you know, from my high school career. And, you know, and the last one I want to thank, probably should have been the first one, is my husband. He's really been my rock. And outside of disrespecting you for taking my spikes back out soon, I will try. He's really been just a great support and cheerleader, and I'm fortunate to have the family and friends I do, and I appreciate being nominated, and, you know, far people more worthy than that. Wasn't a great time for me to speak, but I told myself I was going to do it, so that's what you get tonight. Thank you for coming, and that's all I have to say.
It's hard to stay in one place for a long time, let alone to do so as a coach. These next two guys spent decades at the helm of their respective programs at Hayes High. For 39 years, Frank Leo led the Hayes High baseball program. Not many people need to use an entire hand to count the number of Hall of Fames that they are in, but this guy does. Not also many people had to build the stadium that they played in from the ground up. Here to welcome Coach Frank Leo into the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame is Lindsey Dryling.
Good evening. Microphone down for the short people. I'm Lindsey Dryling, oldest of 3 daughters of honoree Coach Frank Leo. Tasha got me started. She was our next door neighbor, by the way, babysat me when I was little, and you did a great job. Before I get into the many accolades that got my dad here tonight, I wanted to take you back to the beginning. My dad was raised playing stickball on the streets of New York City. He loves to tell stories of how he and his brothers could ride the subway to a Yankees game, buy a ticket, hot dog, and a drink, all for less than $5. So you may wonder, how did this New Yorker end up in Hays, Kansas? Dad left for college when he was only 17. He moved all the way across the country to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to play baseball and attend college. While he was at the University of Albuquerque, the school ran into financial problems and they shut down all of their sports programs. Well, Dad also had 3 teammates from New York on that baseball team in Albuquerque. This is when he met a man who would change his life. Fort Hays baseball coach Earl Hobbs offered these 4 New Yorkers the opportunity to stay together, move to Hays, Kansas, and continue to play baseball. Of course, there was a little initial culture shock when these city boys landed in western Kansas, but that all-conference NAIA district-winning second baseman fell in love with the town and a beautiful girl from Fowler, Kansas, my mom, Barb. 53 years later, my dad continues to be a baseball icon in Hays, but I can tell you without a doubt he would not be where he is today without the support from my mom. And if you thought Italians had a feisty temper, hell hath no fury like a baseball coach's wife after a bad call. There are some true stories behind that. My dad built a baseball program at Hays High from the ground up, and that's not just a figure of speech. They literally built it from the ground up. He and his long-term assistants, Keith Harper and Rich Billinger, started building their Field of Dreams in 1981 on what was a Milo field. They ordered grass seed, planted a field, and watered it around the clock. They built dugouts, a press box, and a hitting barn, and eventually raised money to have lights installed so they could play full seasons on their own turf. When he talked, his players listened, but what he taught them the most was to have fun and to dream big. He built character, resilience, and community in every athlete who has worn an Indians jersey under his leadership. In fact, the current baseball coaching staff consists of all but one who played under my dad. I know he's very proud of that staff and the Hays High baseball tradition they are carrying on. Given he was also a math teacher at Hays High, I figured I'd better throw out some numbers at you tonight. His all-time winning percentage was 68%. Hays High won the Western Athletic Conference title in nearly half the years my dad coached. A third of his years, they made it to the state tournament. He's an 18-time WAC Coach of the Year, the 1994 5A Kansas Coach of the Year, a 1998 National Coach of the Year, and tonight will be the 5th Hall of Fame to which he's been inducted. In 1991, he coached the United States Junior Pan American team to a gold medal finish, and last year, the Hays Larks, which he also has coached for 43 years, brought home the championship from the NBC World Series. But this last stat, it's my favorite one. When you think about Hays, Kansas, it's a generational town. People grow up here and many tend to stay. But my dad taught his baseball players to dream big, and he sent 111 of them on to play college baseball all across the country. He gave them opportunities and helped them to see the potential that they might not otherwise have had they not stepped onto that field my dad and his coaching staff built. It was pretty special when my dad sent the last one, that 111th player of his, off to college because it was his oldest grandson, Dylan, who won a national championship at the University of Tennessee and now plays for the Texas Rangers organization. I might be biased, but I think he saved the best for last. So who would have thought that Italian kid from New York who married a girl from Fowler, Kansas and had 3 daughters would be here tonight in Hays, Kansas, being recognized as one of the best coaches at Hays High School. We love you, Dad. Coach Frank Leo.
I think she took a quick peek at my words I have up here because she stole a little bit of my thunder. But thanks, Linz. That's a great job. First of all, I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee, Kirk Master, and everybody for this prestigious honor tonight and the work that you guys are doing. It is something very special. I know I appreciate it. The former Hall of Famers appreciate it, and the future ones will also. So I want to give a little round of applause to that committee and the hard work that they've started. I'd also like to congratulate my fellow inductees tonight, particularly Joey Hoffman. And Joey, by the way, you kind of sold yourself a little short. We saw some good things in you from the start. We knew what we wanted to do with you, and you got her done. Congratulations, Joe, on being inducted the same night as me. So, as I thought about 39 years and how I can keep within 5 minutes, I think is what they told me, I got some paper out and I started taking some notes. And on those notes I figured, well, 39 years, maybe about 1 minute per year, 39 minutes. If the committee can put up with me, maybe I could do that. Well, I decided that I had 2 choices. I can either talk really fast, like those drug commercials that tell you all about the side effects, and you can never hear them anyway, or I can bore you to death for 39 minutes and tell you a little bit about my journey. Well, you're getting the second choice, and I think Rick Kelton is following me, so I know he's going to beat at least longer than 5 minutes. So Rick and I decided to order breakfast for everybody by the time he's done. So Rick, don't worry, breakfast is on the way. By the way, I'm still old school. When I was teaching, I hated using pads in my last couple of years of teaching math. I was a big paper and pencil guy, and I'm still a big paper and pencil guy. I see some of you come up here with those iPads and everything else. I'm an old school guy. All right, so to make this journey last that long, there's just a bunch of people that I need to thank first. You don't get here without great support, and I had great support over the years. Obviously, the first one has to be my wife and my girls and their families who are here tonight. You guys have been great. Oh, yeah, I want to give them a little round of applause for what they've done for me over the years. So, 56 years ago, I arrived in Hays, Kansas. I had a little darker hair, I was a little bit younger. But as you can see what coaching does to guys over the years, some hair turns gray, others lose it. I'm glad mine turned gray and I still got hair on my head. This incredible journey would have not happened without the unending support from many people who believed in this New Yorker, who helped make my transition to the Midwest and Hays, Kansas be very welcoming. So, to my wife and girls and their families, thank you for buying into my passion. I could not have endured 39 years without your support. We celebrated big wins together, but most of all, you were there to get through the tough losses. Thank you. You have been tremendous over the years. So, in preparation for my talk tonight, I was talking to Barb, and she can attest to this. I talked a lot about what I should say. And I asked her, Barb, in your wildest dreams, in 1972, when you said, "I do," did you realize that there were some attachments to the "I do" part that connected to baseball? Well, she promptly shouted back at me, "Honey, I hate to tell you this, but you weren't in my wildest dreams." Barb, thank you for being the rock, and thank you for being with me every step of the way. To my 3 girls, and I thank God knew when He gave me 3 girls I'd have plenty of boys in my life that I have to worry about. And that was very true. You girls, you grew up around the game. You became very knowledgeable about the game. So knowledgeable over the years that now they try to tell me how to coach. Thanks, girls, for the advice. I'll give you part of the credit for where I am at today. It's been fun to watch their families grow and still have the passion for the game of baseball. We are truly a baseball family. But I do have to add, I have a couple granddaughters where cheer and softball are in their lives. Thank you all of you for your support, girls, grandkids, as being part of this journey. Number 1 on my list after family is coaches. You know, assistant coaches are a big part of a coach's success, and I've been blessed with an incredible staff over the years. I've had the privilege of working with over many years of experienced coaches that have brought to the ball club things that I would have never thought of. It's a staff that was loyal, supportive, hardworking, and they had as much passion for the game that I had. They were all in helping young men learn how to play the game the right way. I need to thank them, and I need to thank their families, because their families, along with mine, you make a lot of sacrifices when you're a coach. You miss out on some things, you got to put them things to the side, and you dedicate yourself to the big game of baseball. I want to thank those coaches for what they have done for me. There's been many over the years, but there's a few, and some of them here tonight, that have been with me for a long time, and I want to recognize those guys. First of all, Robert Holmes. Robert coached for me for 7 years. He was a teacher at Kennedy Middle School, would come over every day after school, would work with our C team. He was very loyal, very supportive, and he's still very supportive to this day. He comes down Wichita and watches the Larks play. Robert, I appreciate your help over the years. Thank you. Rich Billinger. Rich, and some of you guys back there will appreciate this. We call Rich Leave It Billinger, and you guys back there can understand and get a little chuckle out of it. Rich was with me for 25 years. He started in 1981 when Keith and I started. A guy from Victoria, a guy from Colby, and a guy from New York started this program back in 1981. Rich was a head coach at McCracken, Kansas. He joined us and brought some good baseball knowledge to our program. Randy Jordan, RJ as we call him, 25 years with me, 1995 to 2019. Randy also was a player for me in 1982. And he was a guy, when you talk about the true seeds of a program, Randy was there. And what I mean by that, and Randy can remember this, we seeded a baseball field with drop spreaders, about 10 of them, wheel inside wheel, and surrounded the field and dropped as much seed as we had. And I don't know how it happened. Somebody had to have a green thumb, it grew. Randy was a seed of the program, but he was also a backbone for us for 25 years. Randy, I appreciate everything you've done for me. Jarrett Fonensteel, Fonny. He's the quiet guy behind the scenes. He's an organizer. He keeps us all in line, but he's also very loyal, a very hard worker, not afraid to roll up the sleeves and do whatever it needs to be done. But I do need to tell you a story about rolling up the sleeves, about Fonny and RJ. You know, we built the field, but after you build the field, you got to maintain it. And we'd always have to have work days. So I asked Fonny and RJ one Saturday morning, can you meet me out the field at 8 o'clock? They said, sure, Coach. What do you got to get done? I said, well, we got to work on a few sprinklers. We got to replace them. Won't take us very long. About 5 o'clock that night, we were finally done. They said, Coach, you just said a couple of sprinklers. Well, there was a few more that broke than we thought. So comes another Saturday, and I really hated to ask them this. We had some more work to do at the field. So I kind of sheepishly said, Fonny, RJ, can we do this again? Well, I said, sure, Coach. But Fonny said, can we at least stop for lunch? Thank you, Fonny, RJ. You guys are great, and I appreciate your support, your loyalty over the years. Dustin Dreher, 16 years with me, 2004 to 2019. Dustin was also a player on probably one of the best teams we had. They call themselves the Dirty Dozen. Dustin was engaged in coaching in every way, and I knew as I watched him coach, he was going to be the future. What Dustin has done is continued a baseball tradition and excuse me, and kept the baseball tradition alive at Hayes High. Thank you, Dustin, for everything you've given me and for keeping that tradition alive. Keith Harper, 39 years with me, 1981 through 2019. He was with me every step of the way. I don't know of a more passionate guy that loved the game of baseball. Also, if you've ever seen Keith, you think he's got a bionic arm. He's probably thrown more batting practice pitchers than I can count. And I was a math teacher, so I know I can get past 10. But Keith was phenomenal. We had a vision, we had a mission, we had a dream to build a field, and Keith and I just rolled up the sleeves and got it done. I want to thank Keith for being there for our incredible run of 39 years and the bond that we developed through our dedication to the game. There's two other people, they weren't coaches, but were pretty instrumental in the building of our field and supporting our program. One of them was Superintendent Fred Kaufman. Fred was very supportive. He was a superintendent that said, if you want to get something done, come talk to me, we'll see if we can do it. Well, Keith and I approached Fred about building a field. We gave him our plan, we gave him our vision, he said, go do it. And every time we wanted to do something new or different, we'd go ask Fred for his blessing. And Fred finally said to us, you guys are like the Energizer bunnies. You keep going and going and going. And that's what we had to do to complete our mission. I do appreciate what Fred done. When we finally got lights at our field, we had Fred Kaufman turn them on for us. The second person I want to really appreciate and thank is Mike Carl, one of the best ADs in the state of Kansas. And I really mean that, Mike. Mike was a friend, he was a mentor, but he was a coach's AD and a tremendous leader. Thanks, Mike. Well, Lindsay told you a little bit about my journey. I'll fill in a few more details. Yes, I was 17 when I left New York, but I had a desire to play baseball. Went to the University of Albuquerque, and after my freshman year competing there, in the fall, it would have been right before Christmas break in 1968, the administration came in, brought all the athletes together, and told us, we don't have the finances for any more athletics. We were all shocked, didn't know which way to turn, what was next. Well, fortunately for me, and a few other guys there was a scout named Johnny Keenan. And I hate to admit this, but he was from Great Bend, Kansas. Well, Johnny was responsible for getting us here. He told Earl Hobbs, the new head coach at Fort Hays, there's going to be plenty of good players at the University of Albuquerque that'll be eligible right away since they dropped athletics. You know, we didn't have this portal thing back then where you can jump from school to school and be eligible right away. But we had a dispensation since athletics were dropped. So Earl Hobbs called us and told us about Hays, Kansas, and we're New Yorkers. And we said, well, let's do it. Let's go play some more baseball. When we got to Hays, we landed on a Sunday morning, and back then nothing was open at Hays on a Sunday. We flew into Wichita, took a real small puddle jumper. I think it was just the 5 of us on that plane. We can see the captain, co-captain, and everything up there. They could not get all of our baggage on that plane, so some of it had to come the next day. Long story short, there were 5 of us. The next day there was only 4. One of them couldn't make it. He said, I can't stay here. I'm blessed to say that I persevered and I love this place. So what happens after that? I get to Fort Hays, start playing baseball here. I love it. I met that Barb Walker gal. She corralled me, she kept me here, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. So I played baseball for Fort Hays. After playing there, I was an assistant coach at Fort Hays for a couple of years. I was blessed to have coached Bill Hall, and we just had a big reunion in 1974. That team that Bill played on at Fort Hays State went to the NAIA World Series, and it was a fantastic experience. After Fort Hays, after that coaching stint, I decided I better try to start making some money. So I started teaching. I started teaching at what was called Hays Junior High. It was a great staff of people. It was grades 7 through 9. I taught there for several years, and that's when school moved up to the high school. 9th grade went with them. And I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to keep making that kind of money. In 1980, State Farm approached me about selling insurance. I thought that might be a pretty lucrative gig, but all of a sudden a better lucrative gig came up for me. It was called coaching baseball at Hays High. The position opened, I applied, I got it. So in 1981, the journey started. I need some water. Somebody bring me up a drink of water. I'm getting a little long-winded. Coach Kelton's getting a little anxious here. That's good. I thought he'd bring me something else, but the water's fine. All right, so 1981, our first coaching year. Coach Harper and I were together at Fort Hays. I coached him. He was a great player. We played together for 1 year. Our practice field was Dusty Glassman. We had a varsity and junior varsity team. We had 35 guys on one field. We had no batting tunnel. We had no bullpens. It was pretty bone baseball. There wasn't much with it. After that season was over, and it was a fun season. It was a senior class that was pretty senior dominated. We had a lot of fun with them. But Keith and I got together and said, we've got to do something different. That's when our vision came to build a field. And I got to tell you a story about building that field. We went down there, and I kid you not, there was nothing down there. What we see today, when I go down to the field, I don't even recognize it with all the buildings down there. We now finally have a windbreak from all the buildings that were built. Keith stood on a plot of ground and kind of looked around. I'm wondering what the heck is he doing. Puts his arms out like this. I said, okay. He said, this is home plate. We put a stake in the ground, put home plate down, and we call that home for the next 39 years. Guys, it was an incredible journey, an incredible time building it, a lot of stories, but we had a lot of fun. We did it with a passion. We didn't do it for ourselves. We did it for our players. We knew that if we were going to build a program, we needed a place to practice. And so that journey began, including Randy Jordan with setting the seeds, guys cutting grass with push mowers, and it was really, guys, I wish I can share a picture with you. It was truly the first Field of Dreams. Some of you guys remember Ed Shuckman and the ag classes we had. Ed had milo planted out in right field. We were only able to seed out about 250 feet. We had the green grass growing and the big milo growing in the outfield. That was way before the times of the Field of Dreams. I think we were the first one. But it was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Let me move on to the players. You know, these guys are really the guys that make it happen. You're not successful as a coach if you don't have the guys that want to buy in and play the game the way it's supposed to be played. Yogi Berra once said, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the players. And that is a very true statement. We had players who bought in. They bought into being a team. In this day and age, that's hard to do. They bought into understanding that the name is on the front of the jersey, not the back. Over the years, that kind of filters out a little bit, but you got to be strong and keep that theme. It is all about team, and these guys believed it, and that's why we were successful. We were fortunate to have some outstanding players along the way. Lindsay had mentioned we put 111 players into college. We also had 10 players play Division I baseball. We had 9 players play professionally. But it's not just about those guys that were really good. To be a successful team, You had to have a bench. You had to have role players. You never know when you needed one of those guys. And I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not going to tell you too many because there's over 39 years, there's a lot of them. But we're preparing to play Great Bend in a big game during the week. And so, me being a psychologist, I'm trying to get our guys all fired up. We watched the movie Major League. And if you can remember, in one part of that, the Japanese guy, Tanaka, he get out there and said, "We got to play with marbles." Well, we talked about that. When we go to Great Bend, we got to play with marbles. Well, he's Japanese. He didn't really know what he was saying. So we had a little fun with that. We get down to Great Bend, and we have an outfielder get hurt, and a player by the name of Mark Meyer, not a very talented kid, but one of the hardest working kids that do anything to make a team successful. Mark got to play that day, got a base hit to drive in our first run, and guess what he did? He gets on first base, and I mean, he's got the biggest smile in the world. It was priceless. But he steps to the side, looks at me in the coaching box, and says, "Mubbles!" And you know, guys, that is one of the best things about coaching. When you see kids having fun, succeeding, they just work so doggone hard, and something good happened. Those are fun things. One practice story, and I won't tell too many of them, but our practices were geared on getting guys ready to play. We went through a lot of situational stuff every day. Our theme was, we get guys ready to play the game. Come game day, we turn them loose. Maybe push a few buttons, but that's their day. So we're doing an offensive drill one day, and a player by the name of Corey Beaker, one of our better players, we're doing a little hitting drill. He hits a line drive out to left field. He runs really hard, rounds first base, and goes down like somebody shot him. Of course, Coach Harper and I are panicking. We sprint out, and back then I could sprint. Now it'd be probably a fast walk. We sprint out. Coach Harper gets to Corey, rolls up his pants, and there's tape already on his leg. Well, there's an inscription on the tape, "April Fools." Well, from that day forward, when April 1st came around, we circled it on the calendar. Players got to us that day, but it was the last time. You know, we had some good traditions that we did. One was our big Easter egg hunt. We bought all the candy at Walgreens the day after Easter. If anybody's been in there, 75 to 50% off. The coaches would go out in the outfield, we'd scatter candy, we'd put it under buckets, hide it behind signs, we'd tell the players to go for a jog, and they'd come back, and off they went. I mean, it was a chaotic mess when they ran. Of course, we had big prizes. We had some prizes taped under buckets, but there was also some buckets that had nothing in them. You know, kind of like The Price is Right, which door do you want to pick? Well, they would sprint, and they knew the big stuff was way out there, and it was just fun watching them go. But there was candy all over the place. For days after that, I could see guys in the outfield finding a piece of candy as we're doing a drill and opening it up and eating it. So it was a fun day, and it's still a tradition. Coach Strayer, Coach Fonnie are still doing it. It's something we started. But the next one I want to tell you about, we can't do this one anymore. We had a thing that, you know, in the March, kind of didn't stay light very long. We would have some good practices. It'd be getting dark. And we would tell a freshman, you know how eager they are to please, "Hey, go turn the lights on." Well, they would sprint, and I mean sprint, really trying to please us, out to the scoreboard looking for a light switch. They'd go back and forth looking for this switch, and they can never find it. Well, about that time, our upperclassmen who always looked forward to this because they were one of those guys. "Hey, look up. Do you see any lights at the ballpark?" Well, we didn't have lights, but I tell you, it worked every year. And our upperclassmen said, "Coach, is this the day? Can we turn those lights on today?" Those are some of the fun things we did. You know, coaching is stressful, but you gotta lighten it up a little bit, and we try to do that. I want to talk a little bit about some of our teams, and you know, over 39 years, there's a lot of great ones. I can't mention all of them, but there was one that was pretty special. It was Coach Strayer's team. They call themselves the Dirty Dozen. In baseball terms, you talk about dirt bags, guys that aren't afraid to get dirty. aren't afraid to work. We didn't have a hitting facility at that time. We had a cage that would drop down from the ceiling in Gym B. Those guys would get there at 6 in the morning, roll out the mats, drop down the nets, and they would hit. And I'm going to tell you some hitting numbers that that team accomplished here in a bit. But it wasn't by chance. Those guys worked at it. 10 seniors and 2 juniors, and they call themselves the Dirty Dozen. Here's some of their numbers. They were ranked number 1 in the state throughout the year. They had a 20-win season. 7 of the 12 players played in college. And here come the offensive numbers. Team batting average, and these numbers I'm giving you now are still records that stand as the best season records for a team in Hayes High baseball. Season batting average of 395. 62 doubles in 22 games. That's almost close to 3 doubles a game. 239 runs scored in 22 games. 10.86 runs per ball game. 28 home runs in 22 games, over a home run a ball game. Slugging percentage, which means how many extra base hits you're getting. A slugging percentage over 400 is pretty good. These guys were close to 700, 666. An on-base percentage of 501. That means we were getting on base half of our at-bats. These guys could not only hit, those are tremendous hitting numbers, but they were an outstanding defensive team. They now hold the best fielding percentage in Hayes High baseball at 956. How did they accomplish that? They only made 24 errors in 22 games. If you watch a lot of baseball, that's pretty phenomenal. It's not an easy game to play. And by the way, I thought an easy game to play was golf. You know, I've been chasing a ball that's in movement, trying to hit a ball that's moving, trying to catch a ball moving. I figure I'm going to take up golf. Coach Kelton has done the same thing because I had some conversations with him. I figure, how hard can this be? The ball's still. You should be able to play it easy. That was a mistake. Donna, I feel for you. I wish I had some lessons, but I got a long way to go. But that was a phenomenal team, and they put up some great numbers, and hopefully someday we can honor that team here as Hall of Famers. It was definitely a season to remember. Okay, Rick, I'm getting close. Get your notes ready. All right. In closing, I want to leave you with this. Coaching has many challenges. It has many ups and downs. It's all about teaching kids lessons. It's about teaching them how to, when you get knocked down, you got to jump back up. I always told my players, keep fighting for what you believe and dream big. Thank you.
As Coach Frank Leo makes his way back to his seat, we have one more person that would like to congratulate you, Coach. So if you don't mind looking over to the screen over here.
What's up, Pops? It's Dylan. Congrats on the Hayes High Hall of Fame. You deserve it. I'll see you soon.
Coach Leo mentioned, you know that it turns guys gray when they're coaching the teams. Well, for him and then for Coach Keltner, broadcasting their team's games, this is what it's done to me. So you got the good end of the deal on this thing. Next and final for tonight is Coach Rick Keltner, and he coached a lot. It's not to be taken lightly. For 120 seasons, spanning 34 years at Hayes High, he was a coach to many that walked down the hallways. Everybody gets to tell stories, so here is mine about Coach Rick Keltner. I have my sheet with all of the players on it that are playing in that game. And Coach would look at that sheet and talk about every single player, win or lose after the game. If he does that for the 34 years he was at Hayes High, you might want to stretch out and find somewhere to relax. There was a lot of them. Titles, championships, accolades, awards, and even author are words that have been attached to his name. And now, Hayes High Athletics Hall of Famer. Here to introduce Rick Keltner to the Hall of Fame is Stu Keltner.
Hey, thank you so much for the Hall of Fame committee that put all this together. Obviously, what a tremendous honor you're bringing me back flashbacks to my childhood, all these people that have been up here talking tonight. But I'll keep this short. My wife just told me keep it short. All right, so first off, obviously I'm Coach Keltner's favorite player, right? That's why I'm up here right now. But few people don't. Also, I think I could have been his best player if he wouldn't have held me back, right? So first off, I don't have a lot of stats. When I think about my dad's coaching career, I just think about really three things that come to mind. First thing is passion, right? He told me a story one time, and I don't know if this is true or not, but at a Greek soldier's funeral, they'd ask one question: did the man have passion? Well, has anyone seen Coach Keltner coach? Did he have passion? What do you think? But yeah, I think back to those days he had at times. You could feel the nervous tension at 6 a.m. in the house, classic rock playing, a open Bible on the table. He goes to school, coaching, coaching, game planning, teaching throughout the day, probably hit Coach Watts up on his planned period to talk about last minute adjustments, whatever it is, bus rides, going into the arena where you have some legally blind official that he's spit flying in the air, him throwing his coat. That was a Tuesday night. I just described a Tuesday, right? So he coached with tremendous passion and really loved the kids and loved what he did. Second thing I think about is you can't be afraid to fail. These are things I've shared with my kids. You can't be afraid to fail. I remember as a kid walking in and saying, "Dad, are you nervous about tonight's game?" And he would say some ridiculous comment like, "Stu, they can beat you, but they can't eat you." And I'd walk away and say, "What the hell does that mean?" But he's right. He's right. It's like the lesson is learned in the arena. The lesson's learned in the arena. That's the old you win or you learn, right? And all of those lessons that he's learned over the years, and I learned from watching him, and obviously wanting to emulate him as a kid. And that's ultimately how he built his program, was trial and error. Hayes is a great community. They were so supportive, and he got to try new things. He did a lot of innovative things with some of his teams. And then lastly, make the big time where you are, right? This is in today's world. I think if somebody has a bad day at work, they want to go home and update their resume. And I think at times staying, it's such an empowering thing to watch him stay, build a great program, develop relationships in the community, and really. Sorry for a second. Need a second here. I heard him talk about a lot of things that were bigger than life. You talk about doing the right thing, and on the court and out of the classroom, in the classroom, out of the classroom. You talk about body language. He was a big body language guy. You talk about just at times just really being a family when you were part of Hayes High basketball. And I think that's why Hayes High had such a tremendous home court advantage. I mean, some of those games, I used to say, I watched Great Ben come into Hayes High's gym on multiple occasions, and I said, it looked like a couple guys showing up at a family barbecue thinking they were going to win in a fist fight. Like they're going to come beat somebody up. No, it was just the environment was awesome to be a part of. And, the takeaway, though, is make the big time where you are, and where you are becomes the big time. And I can honestly say that it's just been awesome to be a coach's kid and all the supportive people in the Hayes community. And I know I'm proud of you, and I know you made Bob and Dorsey proud of you as well. Bob and Dorsey Keltner, my grandparents. It's my honor to introduce Rick Keltner to the Hall of Fame.
Man, I know you guys will be getting restless here, but what about Mark Watts? Where's Mark Watts at? Is John Channel on there? Channel's right here. Okay, before I go any further, it is a family, and Mark, I don't know if I'm afraid to get in trouble for being racial here, but Mark and I started together with John Channel and Jim Masker, the great Jim Masker. That was our first staff here in 1985. And I can remember before games, I think I'm funny sometimes, I would say something like, we got the tallest, widest coaching staff in the state of Kansas. It was Mark and John and I, John's tall, and the Tall White Guy Club. And we got that thing started, and then Jim Mask, of course, was the brains of the event. But Mark, it's happened quick, man. It hasn't it? And I thought we were so pretty back then, but we've gotten a little older. But it's just so humbling to be here, to be in the same place and get to coach in Hayes with wonderful people. And Dustin mentioned I coached 120 high school seasons, and I did, and that's not 120 years. I want to point that out, but I did coach 120 high school seasons, and it was an honor to coach each one of them. I coached some great individuals. Now, Frank coached about as many years as he coached more years here than I did, but I coached 47 years total if you talk about some other schools. Tipton, Kansas was wonderful to me, and when I retired here, I coached some other places. And I want to try to stay close to script here because I know us coaches can ramble the best of them. I know I got people right there that believe that, but I think it's important for me to make sure I thank people that are priorities, and family is important. And I've got to thank, I went to Kansas Wesleyan University. Ed, we played Fort Hays State in the District 10 playoff. We were seated ahead of Fort Hays. They had to come to Salina to play us, and I sat on the bench and watched Ed Shoemaker beat us in overtime. But what a wonderful memory. But I got a lot out of that experience. I watched the program go from worst to first. I met a girl. It's like a grade B movie. I was playing pool. I thought I was the 70s. I was living like the Dazed and Confused movie script almost, but just having a good time. And all of a sudden I saw this beautiful girl and asked her to dance and got to know her. Went home that night and told my roommate, a guy named Rick Waymaster, I said, I just met the girl I want to marry. And Paula Moritz, right over there. Going on 50 years later, my wife's been so solid for me, and I've been so blessed that I got to have that. You know, that's like a movie script, right? Few people get to do that. So I married a beautiful girl from a large family. Her mom died when she was 9, small town girl. Her dad owned a lumber yard. She checked all the boxes, you know, and I was so lucky that was the best recruiting job I ever did. Don't tell me I can't recruit. And I also, I'm blessed you met my son Stuart. He's a big boy. He wasn't that big when he played at Hayes High School. Might have helped us on some rebounding stuff, but he definitely was. I'm proud of Stuart. So not only proud of him as a player and an athlete and getting to coach him, but he's a dad. He's dad to Hallie and Shay and Miles. You know, my 3 grandkids. I don't know if I can get through this too well. I'll try, but I'm so blessed with them. And then his beautiful wife Brooke. Brooke Hobbs was actually one of our basketball managers one year, and then she went to Fort Hays and ran track and quarter mile, and then she's got her daughters winning quarter mile races, things like that. So I've been way too lucky. I've been very blessed. Paul is way too good for me. This town's been so good to me. I got to coach and do something I loved. I got to be Coach Kellner for 37 years here, and 34 years, excuse me, 47 years total. And I thank the people of Hayes for that. Wonderful people. I mean, I think this is a good community, hardworking community, and everybody does their thing well. You know, you got people that are giving, they'll help you, do whatever they can do to help you, and if they're kind of idiots, they're really good idiots. I mean, we've got people that are good at what they do here, and I'm just thankful to be here, and I didn't meet any idiots when I was here, but I'm just trying to be funny. But bottom line is, when you coach in one school, I coached at Hayes High School for 34 years basketball. That's not common. You know, I was very lucky. And listen to Frank talk. It's just an honor to follow and thank the Hall of Fame people for letting this happen, making this happen. It's such an honor. But I feel kind of guilty because, man, the players, you know, I've just mentioned my family, and then I don't want to forget, I got cousins and aunts and uncles and nephews and nieces coming from all over the place here, and just how blessed can I be? Stuart mentioned my mom and dad, and they passed away, and they would have been nice. I can't do it in public, but anyway, my parents would have been so proud. Bob and Dorsey Kellner would have been so proud. And Mike Carl, I'm sorry, I'm going to babble a little bit here, but Mike Carl, I'm not here without Mike Carl. Mike's such a wonderful AD to start with, and I got a horrible story to tell you about Mike Carl. When I was coaching at Tipton, when I got out of college, I wanted to coach so bad. I knew I wanted to coach in junior high school. So when I got out of college at Kansas Wesleyan and played down there, I got a job in Tipton, Kansas. And I was coaching a small high school in Tipton, Kansas. I coached a bunch of sports. Those people were so good to me. They let me coach and let me coach. They let me coach the kids, and I was crazy. I thought I was Bobby Knight. I thought I was going to turn the world around and that kind of thing. So there were times when I know, and this may be one of those times where I know I embarrassed my wife and all kinds of people, but I know that I played with a coach with passion. Tipton had not been very successful in sports in general, and I wanted us to be successful. And so we battled. And so I kind of was too much, I'm sure. And I know I probably got a reputation among officials because I was wanting every call. I was just a young idiot for sure. And Mike Carl was on an officiating crew. We had a game in Eastern Heights, Agri, Kansas, playing against Everett Gouldy, a Hall of Fame coach at Eastern Heights. And I had a disagreement with the official, and I hadn't stood up yet. I'm sitting down, it's right in front of me. I won't get into details. And I disagreed with the official, and it took 3 technical fouls to get ejected then. I had 3 technical fouls in 1 sentence. I promise you, no profanity, no profanity. How do you do that? You know, I got ejected 3 technicals. So a couple years later, I've been at Tipton. I got to coach some great kids. I coached football too. I got to coach in the state championship game of 8-man football. One of my highlights. It was just so much fun. But anyway, the Hayes High job opens up. Gerald Mitchell, who was mentioned earlier, called me up and said, "Hey, you ought to apply for the Hayes High job." And I said, "I can't do that. The AD is Mike Carl. He's not going to hire me, you know." And I got better things to do than fill out job applications. I had some really good kids coming up in Tipton, so I wasn't going to do it. And then they called me again. Another guy called me and said, "Well, you ought to come back." I've always liked Hayes. That's why I'm still here, even after teaching and coaching here. We still are here because we love this town. And so I called Mike Carl and said, "Hey, Mike, this may be a stupid phone call, but I know I got ejected." Although Mike wasn't the guy. I remember Mike came up to me when it happened. And he goes, "Coach, you got to leave. You got 60 seconds." I said, "Your buddy lost his head." And Mike Carl goes, "Well, you got to leave. You got 60 seconds." I said, "You lost your head." He said, "You got 15 seconds." Anyway, Mike, I don't know how it happened, brother, but Larry Brown at KU, I got to say this because I'd worked camps. One of the things I got to do in Hayes, Kansas, I worked a lot of camps with a lot of great coaches over the years, and I'm a KU fan. And Larry Brown went to bat for me, and Mike Carl, thank you. You gave me a chance to coach and do something I love in Hayes, Kansas. Gave me a chance to raise children here and be married to a wonderful woman, and I want to thank you and the administrators that allowed me to do that. I got to mention players. You guys have been going through their stats and stuff. I know you don't want to hear all that, but we've got some stats I want to tell you, some stuff. And one thing I got to tell you right now is I shouldn't be up here ahead of some teams. I was just the coach. I'm not here without guys that can play this game. And I was here for a lot of years, and some years we weren't as good, but I didn't chase wins. I didn't say we're going to move our family because I'm afraid next year's team won't be as good. I like the challenge of trying to be good and trying to get better and find a way. And sometimes I did a better job of that than others. Sometimes I obviously wasn't perfect, and if I ever hurt anybody, I apologize for that. It certainly wasn't my intention, but I did expect us to play hard. Stuart introduced me. He's a son. I viewed the guys I coached, I viewed them as sons. And I treated them like sons in most aspects. And I expected them to act the right way. Their body language is important. I expected them to play hard. If somebody else wants the ball more than you, that's a problem, And I think that's how you play it. I got to say this before I go too much further. Where's Coach Sloan at? Coach Sloan, I'm telling you, I want to know because I heard Charlie Sheen drank tiger blood to look young, and I don't know what you're doing, but you look wonderful. You're my inspiration because us old coaches are. Yeah, give him a hand, please. But anyway, I got to coach in this place, and it's such a blessing. And the players did everything. I wanted to go to state every year. I went and watched the 18-2 guys work out today, or not work out. They were talking. I thought they were going to meet in the gym. I thought they were going to play pickup ball, Mike. I thought you guys be. But anyway, I came over to watch that, and gosh, I lost my train of thought. But just get to see teammates. They didn't go to state. 18-2 didn't go to state. That's how horrible. It's a travesty. It's a story. And all of us that have been around sports know that you don't go every year. Before I came here, Hayes High School had been in the state 9 times. Okay, and then in 1989, we had the ball, 8 seconds left. They called 50 fouls in the game. The other coaches yelled foul. They knocked Steve Fabrices down, picked up, laid it in the buzzer. I talked to a priest after that game that night because it was so hard to swallow. We got beat because we wanted to get that monkey off our back going to state. Next year we beat a kid named Martin Lewis in Liberal. Martin Lewis, we played against some guys. Martin Lewis went straight to the NBA from Liberal High School. He didn't hang, but he went straight. But we beat Liberal in our court to finally go to state, get that monkey off the back. Then went down there and had some great games and lost in the semis to a McPherson team that had 3 Division I players on it. But what a heck of a game. Lonnie Kruger came in our locker room after the game and said congratulate our kids. So even when we lost, if you played with that kind of passion and kind of effort, and played unselfishly and cared about other people more than yourself, you can find happiness in basketball. you can find happiness in life, I think. So what I tried to tell the players over the years is that if you do the things that we want to do in Hayes High basketball, you can find happiness. Because nobody's really happy. You know, you watch NBA games, the minute they win, they're talking about, well, we got to win it again next year. No, it's just doing what you can do and being a good teammate. And I tried to emphasize that, and not because I'm perfect or a great example, but just because I was trying to do the best I can. And that's all we can do. So anyway, what have I done so far? Oh, coaches. John Channel. Is John watching? John Channel, I got sidetracked with the tall white guy stuff, I think. But John Channel, I love him. Talked to him yesterday. He was an All-American. He was Fort Hayes' all-time leading rebounder. He played at Goodland High School, was a state champion. Played at Hutshuko, was a national tournament guy. John Wooden, kind man. He's in Kansas City now. He's in a wheelchair right now. He can't get out as often as he used to, but love talking to John, and I appreciate Mark getting him on there. And I want you guys, you've been sitting a while, and you've been so patient. I know you got to be wanting to stab me to get me out of here, but I got to tell you right now, let's do this. I want you to do this. I think sometimes people just this used to fire me up with high school kids too, or teams. You can't just sit there being cool. So I want to do something for John Channel. I want everybody, don't make me come over there, but hold your hands like this. And when I say hit it, I want you to clap 3 times. It should sound perfect, not popcorn. It should sound perfect. I'm going to say hit it, and we're going to clap 3 times. And John, this is for you, brother. Okay, ready? Hit it. That's awesome. Thank you very much. So, love you, John. I got to say this too before I'm about done. I'm sorry. I got to thank the coaches. I had wonderful coaches, and I wanted to say some of them are former players. But if I could get the coaches that are here tonight that we coach here, could you please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up like Eminem. Please stand up. Please stand up. Give these guys a hand, please. Well, I'm a former player. Okay. Before I go any further, too, one of the teams, Brandon Mask is in here somewhere. There's Brandon. I need to mention teams. I told you I wouldn't be up here without them, and this wonderful team is getting inducted this year. I'm hoping to be up here sometime talking about some teams. I got 5 I've nominated, but one of them, Brandon Mask, was on. Brandon, stand up for a second, brother. Sometimes when somebody was scoring on us, I would put Brandon McNasty Mask on them, and Brandon would make their life miserable. I love you, Brandon. But we went to the state tournament. We had a 7-foot center that played in the developmental league for NBA, played at Dayton University, set some records there, and we played great man-to-man. And we've got a record, I can tell you this. You remember, Brandon. We gave up 22 points against Goddard, and that's still the state record in the 5A state tournament. That record's been for going on 26 years. Please clap for that. Please clap for that. It's pretty good detail. All right. And so I had some teams that were very good. I had 2013-14 team was 23-2, which is the most wins in Hayes High history. Undefeated regular season. TOC champions beat 6A number 1 ranked team, Wichita East, to win it. Had a team in 96. I see you back there, Brian Weimer, got 3rd at state. I see in 2000, Brandon's team started slow and had a great run to state. And then Stewart's team was 19-3 his senior year, and they started the season unranked and finished ranked number 1, but we did not go to state. But before you can take anything away, you guys, this year's team, 70-71 team, you inspired me once again, because I saw you. You guys were brothers. You were talking today. You were having a great time talking. You weren't talking about that one game. You know, you're talking about the journey you had together, and that's what it's all about. So I've got to shut up. Oh, no, wait. No. I almost forgot about the apple of my eye. I held her as a baby. Her big blue eyes open up and look at me. Her daughter, Sarah, is here tonight, right over there. Sarah is a pharmaceutical administrator, done really well in the pharmaceutical business. She was athlete of the year at this thing when she was a senior in high school. Very proud of her. She's a PhD candidate, so I'm proud of my family, and I consider all you guys family. So whether you want me or not, I'm like related to you. So anyway, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, we're going to wrap things up. Thank you, and I know this evening can get fairly long, and I remember going into the first one of these, and this is our 4th, I looked at my wife and I said, I wonder how much it means for people to go into their high school Hall of Fame. And that was an honest question. It wasn't something that I was trying to put down at all, but I think you realize with each one of these speeches how much it truly does mean that these people get inducted, these teams get inducted into the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame. So yes, it can be a long evening, but I think you hear it in each of them how much it really does mean. A few thank yous to pass along. Again, thank you to Jake Decken and the Hayes High video production team for filming tonight's event. Hayes High Athletics Vault on YouTube is where this will be. To Karina Beam and the Shutter Glimpses for taking photos, you need to go to shutterglimpses.com, click on the Sports tab in order to be able to see tonight's photos. To the staff and administration at Hayes High and USD 489 for allowing and continue to support the vision of the Hayes High Athletics Hall of Fame. Big thank you to the Rose Garden tonight. Delicious meal and the use of their facility. Northwestern Printers are responsible for the programs. Please take one home with you. RD Graphics always does a great job with our awards. Speaking of which, inductees, don't forget, because we had somebody 2 years ago forget to take their awards, so please take your awards. Thank you to the event sponsors for tonight, Jeter Law Firm, Bank of Hayes, Insurance Planning, and Premier Business Management. Big thank you to Paige Lunsford. She's on the board. And anything that has to do with technology, she's the one that gets it done because the rest of us are too old to know how to run a computer effectively. So we appreciate her doing that. If you'd like to nominate somebody, and I heard several people say, well, this person should be nominated, that person should be nominated. Well, it's the general public that has to nominate. Us as a committee do not put up people for nomination. There's a nomination form available on our Facebook page for anybody that you think that deserves, or a team that deserves a spot in the Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame. And with that, thank you for coming out to the 4th annual Hayes High Athletic Hall of Fame's banquet. Please travel home safely. Enjoy your evening.